recording.
Brilliant. Well done.
Thank you. And I've got to look for somebody else, so I'll do that afterwards, to co-host. So anyway, I'm going to pour my water. Got my water and pour my water into my calabash. And we give thanks to the Ludamari, which is the Most High, the Most High, the Divine One, the Creator of all things, creatures great and small. I give thanks for the earth that we stand upon, the air that we breathe, the sunshine that gives us life, the water that gives us life, all plants and creatures, great and small, that helps the world go round, I suppose it does. I also give thanks to our Ori, which is our head, that helps us to know what is right from wrong. We need to listen to our head sometimes, as well as our gut instinct. I also give thanks to all of our good ancestors who got taken away from the shores of our homes many years ago. I give thanks to the good ancestors because not all of our ancestors were good. We got betrayed by a few. So it's the good ancestors I call upon to say thank you for their tenacity. I say thank you for their strength. I say thank you for the fact that they had that willpower to carry on through all things, thick and thin, all what they seen, all what they witnessed, all what they went through, seeing loved ones and people who they knew and didn't know being torn apart, lives being taken, seeing others taking their own lives because of what they went through. They didn't want to continue going through that, or didn't want to even imagine what more they could go through by these oppressors. So for those good ancestors who strived, who had that willpower to carry on, who had that tenacity to keep on going, because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be here today. So for all those good ancestors, I say thank you and Ashe.
Ashe.
I also say thank you to our leaders, our heroes, our sheroes, our warriors. And as you can see, mine is the Right Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey is my favorite. But I know everybody may have their own favorites. And I also know that there is many others that I could name, but there's too many for me to actually to mention that actually kick down those doors and open those pathways for us to let us know that we can rise up, we can fight back, we can strive forward, we can all march together. We don't have to be subservient, we don't have to do as we're told. As I said, we can rise up. And those leaders, heroes and shearers in our past help us to lead the way. And it's those leaders, heroes, sheroes and warriors that inspired us as a people to stand up and rise up. So we are our own leaders, heroes and sheroes in this day we are in today. So for those leaders, heroes and sheroes and warriors, I say thank you and Ashe for all those names we know, names we don't know, names we may have forgotten, and names that we'll never know, but they all help to pave the way and making us be the people who we are today and giving us the people the rights that we have today, but we still need more. So, you know, we call on those ancestors' spirit to come in within us so that we can pick up that mantle and keep on going. For those leaders, heroes and shearers and warriors, I say thank you and Ashe.
Ashe.
I also say thank you to my lineage. I say thank you to your lineage. I say thank you to all the ancestors, the good ancestors that let us be the people who we are. There was with us from the time we were born right through to the time that we will become ancestors. Those good ancestors that's there with us all the way, even though sometimes we may believe that we're alone. Rest assured, we're not alone. They are there with us by our sides. And also remember that they are there also for us to call on them for guidance and for help. So when we ask the questions to our ancestors, let their answers be as clear as water. Ask that their answers be as clear as water. And also let our minds be open to receive those messages, because those messages are going to become in many different ways, signs, forms, means, you know, just seeing a blackbird or seeing a white feather, you know, which is out of place, is a sign that your ancestors actually heard you. So for all our ancestors whose heads and shoulders who we all stand upon, I say thank you and ashe.
Ashe.
I also give thanks. I use this opportunity to say thank you to my grandmother, who has been with me all the way. I've never met her personally, but I know that she's there. So Stefan Bailey, I say thank you and ashe.
Ashe.
And I also say thank you to my grandfather, Hubert Stair, who's, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't know my lineage. So for Hubert Stair, I say thank you and ashe.
Ashe.
And I also say thank you to my mother, Iona Pinnock, and my stepfather, Ivan Pinnock, because if they wasn't the people who they were, I wouldn't be the person who I am. So Ivan Pinnock and Iona Pinnock, I say thank you and ashe.
Ashe.
And it's here I open up for anybody else who'd like to say thank you to their loved ones, somebody who they know, somebody who they don't know that's passed that they'd like to acknowledge. The floor is yours. Just open your mics and speak. Okay.
Yes, I would like to say thank you to my mother, Nadine Sempri,
Ashe.
and to my sister, Miranda Fanelia.
Ashe.
Yeah, and that's it for me.
Thank you.
Ashe.
Thank you, Ashe. Anybody else?
Yes, I would like to give thanks and praise to my grandparents. From my mother's side, a Ghanaian living in Jamaica. His name is Ishmael. Granddaddy from my mother's side. From my grandmother, whom I've never met because she died when my mom was 5, but I remember her name, Hilda. I want to say to my father's mother, whom I knew, and we called her Mammy. Ashe.
Ashe.
I want to say for my brother who died at 18 years, who was killed rather, at 18 years old by some jealous people with distorted thinking, addicted to their distorted thinking, killed my brother out of jealousy and red eye, because they were adults and he was just a young boy who took his studies correctly, you know, qualified at a higher level, and they didn't want to be told by him as the foreman what to do. What a shame. I still cry today for my brother. Ashe, Donald. Ashe. To my
Ashe.
dad, to my father's dad, George Oliver Vincent Walters, and my daddy, George Oliver Vincent Walters, and my mother, Gladys Eugenie Walters. Ashe. And the final ashe, please, for what's to come. I'm about to talk about addiction, and I'd like us just to pause for 10 seconds and think of anybody we know with an addiction. Anybody, any kind of addiction. And we will salute them today and say, never again will any of us or anyone we tell about today's presentations, never to look down on anyone, because anyone could drop into the ravine from the top of the cliff. Ashe.
Ashe. Ashe.
Ashe. Ashe.
Okay. All right. With that, I will introduce you to the person who you just seen, Dr. Lyndon Waters, and he's to be talking about our Black experience, and as he's just quoted, also about addiction. So, Dr. Lyndon Waters, may I, as I said, you've got the screen share. The screen is now yours, and welcome. Let people know who don't know of you, who you are, and what you do. and you can take it on from there. The screen is now yours. Welcome. You're muted.
Yeah, I want to say thank you for the welcome. And I just want to say that when I'm sharing, I've had some problems with PowerPoint. So I'm just going to give you the basic stuff from off my computer. So please bear with me as long as you can follow it. That's really what the whole point is. My name is Dr. Lyndon Walters. I'm an avid researcher and scientific scholar in integrated science. I'm here because I'm a specialist in behavior and relationships, which is either caused or conflicted by behavior. Today, I want to remind you that in the very first talk back in March, I did open up with crab in the barrel behavior. It isn't listed as a distorted behavior because obviously that's what we call it from Jamaica and in the Caribbean, in Africa and the rest of the diaspora, like Jamaica. Behaviors are something that all creatures, all animals, all humans, all spirits, all consciousness does. We behave in a one way or another. You know, whom are the observers of behavior? We all are. And so we learn from our own behaviors. We learn from other people's behaviors. We will learn from animals. We learn from children. We learn from babies. We learn from men. We learn from women. We learn from the birds. We learn from the fish. We learn from every form of life.
Just to interrupt you just a minute, could you just adjust your laptop so we can see all of your face, because the top of your head has been
My head's gone again, right?
Yeah, no, that's fine. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, you know, they used to call me a little boy with an oval head, so they really couldn't see the shape of it, you know. So maybe the oval is still there.
Okay.
But as I transition into the movement of behavior and how it all affect us and how we become very adept to using behavior. We haven't yet qualified good, bad, or indifferent, and that will come as the presentation goes along. As I know that you already know, some of you and anybody who is new, my topic really is the Black experience. And what I aim to do is to bring you some more behaviors that I've noticed, I've observed, I have researched about our own behavior. It's not all bad and it's not all good. But we can learn from both sides. I then, whilst researching, started to think, well, if it's not bad and it's not good, what's in the middle? I wonder if you'd like to put that in the chat. And then tell me what's in the middle, because I couldn't find anything in the middle. All that was in the middle for me was reasonable behavior. If you've got anything apart from that, please help me to put that in. It's going to be part of my research. Right, today I aim to give you a slightly different presentation because as I said, I'll be showing you something from my, when I'm sharing the screen, and I want you to develop this attitude of at least, you know, recognizing that there is some sort of pattern to behaviors. Many of us might know and have seen a lot of pattern of behaviors. I want to tell you one that, you know, I didn't even plan for. Somebody sent me a video, and it was a video of a young boy's picture, maybe about, say, 16, 17. And a voice in the video was telling him, speaking to him from prison and threatening this young boy to go out to the rest of the gangs out there that he controlled from prison. And I need not describe any further than say he was encouraging them to go out and injure, damage, and kill people, because his set of people in his community is being dissed by the other communities that they are now soft because they haven't killed anyone recently. Can you believe that? Can you believe this? This is not a movie, this is not a play, this is a real video. Sometimes we have to look at these things and say, no wonder some children are abandoning their homes, abandoning their families, abandoning all the culture and all of the stuff that we've taught our children, and they go out there and end up in the prison farm, which is privately owned. And that voice, although I couldn't see who was speaking, I can tell you the accent was absolutely a Black Nubian African person. And it brings me to these addictive behaviors like that. He's in prison. Who knows how long he's going to be in there? Maybe all his life. For the way he's talking, he must have done something really bad. And I'm not judging him, just saying that. Encouraging young children who have so much talent and capabilities and would rather be doing something better than what they're being forced to do. Do you remember anybody forcing you to behave in a particular way? I'd like to take that away from the presentation today. All you have to do is put yes or no. That's good enough for me. I am feeling really exceptionally emotional to have been disturbed by that video. I wasn't going to make it part of my talk, but believe you me, it's like they say, my craw full up, you know? Like when you feed a fowl and you know if the fowl had enough, you go and feel its craw. My heart's full up. My mind's full up. How I would like to do something for this person who is an adult. You could tell it's an adult. Encouraging these little boys and girls to go out there with and damage people, and not only damage or maim them, but kill them, so that he can have a badge to say, this is my road that I am repping, and we just killed X, Y, and Z number of people. So please remember, the next time you hear the sad news of a child being killed by another child, don't be surprised when you hear every single area and every single region that there is at least another killing. I've been wondering, what is it? Is it a virus? Yes, it is a mental virus. It is something that is overwhelming. Too many mothers are crying out there, and too many daddies are taking revenge. It saddens me to have to bring you bad news, but unfortunately, I only study patterns of behaviors, and that's what I am bringing to you now. I want to relate something else to you, which is addictive. We have a sort of culture which asks us to give respect to others. And there's nothing wrong with the principle of that. But as a little boy back in Trenchtown, I was free to say to my parents, I'm not having any respect for that person over there because I heard them say something the other day that was disgusting, or I saw them do something disgusting. So if I go and show them, respect, they're going to continue to do that. And they said, well, son, you don't have to show any sort of respect generally, but to the people you see are doing good and living good in the community, you have to have respect for them. Now, obviously, I couldn't say no. But I don't respect people, especially adults, who are indulging children to do wrong. I know individuals. I've been threatened. I got a phone call through on my phone some years ago. I was on the balcony chatting to some friends, and my queen picked up the phone. She brought it out and she said, there's a man on the phone, says he's going to shoot you. I said, what? Who is this? Must be some kind of a joke. So I picked it up. I said, this is, they used to call me Natty Lyndon in those days. Natty Lyndon, I hear you want to kill me. And he said, yes, I'll go kill you. And I said, well, where is this going to happen and when? Because, you didn't give me my life, and my life is precious. So I'll be ready for you to do your best, but I trust that you can take my best. I'm a street fighter. I'm no pretty boxer. I'm not ashamed to say that. The brain that we have, which have all the thoughts and messages and memories, it is there because it's built for survival. Our ego, which gets a lot of blame incorrectly, because people don't know that our ego is part of our survival kit, and it will tell us to do anything to spare our lives. I'm wondering if people who have addictive behaviors, and I want to tell you, most of us have some addictive behaviors, I want you to scan your whole memory bank while I'm talking and see if there is something that you've been doing again and again and again. This is not to point a finger, but this is for me to elicit at least some empathy for the people who have addictive behaviors. And we can't criticize them mainly because we don't know their story. We don't know what they've been through. We don't know how they got there. They weren't born with these behaviors. They're being copied. Maybe I have some behaviors that, is addictive too. Who knows? But as long as that addiction is not causing one to go out there looking for satisfaction in a different way. So what I aim to do is just to remind you that on the first talk, we talked about the crab in the barrel. That's the kind of behavior where one doesn't want the other one to be better off than where they are. They're envious and they'll do anything to keep us down. I'm sure that each of us know at least one person who is like that or have met somebody. If I'm incorrect, please write to me at my email address and let me know. Now, I think it would be apt if I could share what I've got prepared for you all. May I share the screen?
Yes, go ahead. You've got the control.
Where have I got this? I want this. Yes. Okay. So this is my little presentation that I've put together, even though I have not been able to get it on the PowerPoint, but it still will do. I think, I'm just wondering how I'm going to manage to get this up and down. I wonder if it will work. Let me just see. Can I just see if it will work? Oh dear, that's not going any good.
Yeah, you just hold.
Okay, yeah, I can see it
You
now.
see
Thank
it?
you.
Yeah.
Got
Oh,
it.
no worry.
Right. So at the top of the page, I've got the word stimuli. For those of whom might say, what is a stimuli?
Today, family, of this nasty, dirty scum, demon, narcissist.
That was not me, by the way. I haven't suddenly changed my voice. Okay? Can I speak now?
Yes, you can. Sorry.
Okay. Stimuli is a very old-fashioned word. Instead of saying stimuluses, because stimulus is a singular occupier, you know, something that attracts us, distractor. So stimuli is obviously more than one stimulus. Notice there's a little arrow pointing down to the words beliefs and values, and that's there definitely, deliberately. All stimuli for the way we see living is from all the beliefs and values that's soaked up into our memory bank. Beliefs and values equivalent to being culture. So just imagine that. Things that are cultural, we take for granted. But I can tell you some cultural things that I've witnessed since being a child. One is called, back in Jamaica, called battery. If you've never heard the term before, battery is gang rape. That's what it is known as here. I've heard grown men sitting or standing outside the bars when the drinks have got to them, literally confessing without knowing it to what they've done. And normally it's to a child. What is wrong with us? I'm not saying that others don't do these things, because believe you me, in June you will hear me talk about what the others do. But for now I'm talking about what I have witnessed. And these are addictions, because I will tell you a story about a young girl, a good friend of mine. We went to the same primary school and stuff like that. And she fell trap, you know, to this kind of battery thing, because, you know, there are people like they're watching fruits on a tree. And they said, well, see the little blossom come up there now? Yes, you're going to have a little mango growing right there. And they watch that mango day by day and study it until we know the mango is now fit. It's not yet ripened, but it's now fit. And then when it's ripe, they will pick it and eat it. And that's the biggest metaphor I can give you for the same sort of watchful way in which some men, and I mean a majority of the population, were watching little children grow. And of course we know that when they get into pubescence, adolescence as we call it, they start to develop. even more. It is a time for growth, more growth. It is a very difficult time for all youngsters, male and female. And this addiction of adults, grown, hard-back men who are raping little girls is part of my research for the Black experience. I, as a boy, had to become very violent quite a number of times, threateningly so, to defend little girls I know. And it was a disgrace, totally disgraceful, to hear these half-drunkards boasting about what they did and owning. The worst thing is they were owning. I can get it when I want it, because she dare not say anything. Listen to me carefully. I am happy that my parents helped me with my anger issues, because if they hadn't, I wouldn't be here today. I would have committed that kind of sin that would have meant at the time I would have been imprisoned. And you know what? They didn't give life sentences in those days. They took your life. So if you took a life, they would take your life by a rope hanging around your neck. And it would have been in my time in public. And I would have every right to go to my grave in defense of a young individual being attacked premeditatedly. And these you won't find in the academic books. No one is going to tell you that happened unless they're just as disgusted with that kind of behavior as I am. My heart is so full. I don't know how I made it to this presentation today, because I've been crying all day when all of this has just been coming up in my brain and said, crikey, the Black experience didn't start here, it started when you were younger. I have no sympathy for any rapist. When the statistics, the world statistics, the planet-wide statistics is saying we men can choose from 23 women, because there are 23 women to every man on this planet. So what would make somebody want to go and do something like that? There are more women on this planet than there are men. So that person, you must say, has an addiction, especially if they've repeated that nasty process over and over and over again. And I continue with my little friend who went to the police station, which was only about 10 minutes away from where we lived, to complain about a man in the area who had raped her. Coming home from school late in the evening. I would call it broad daylight. It was as light as this. And her mother said, go and tell the police. And she went up to the station. I won't say which one it is. And she went in and she told the police. And I'm standing outside the station because they wouldn't let me come in, waiting for her to come back out. And it was a good 35, 40 minutes before she came back out. And she came back out sadder than when she went in. And she then told me the police raped her. This is exploding. It's exploding everywhere now, but I'm just talking about what I have come across or what I've been told by young folks, like myself at the time, how they've been abused. I would be very much interested, and I'm going to write to the University of the West Indies in Jamaica and ask them if they've ever done a statistics, you know, undercover, so that nobody had to feel ashamed that people know it's them, because obviously nobody really wants to talk about it. And the less they talk about it, is the more it keeps happening. These are addictive behaviors that you will not find in university books. You will not find it in any other sort of study or presentation. But I'm telling you about it. And that's all from beliefs and values. They believe they had a right to do it, and they evaluate that the children that they raped. I'm not saying women weren't raped as well, because that still don't, you know, it's not right. But I'm just going to go for the children right now. They evaluate that it's a cultural thing. So what's everybody making a fuss for? So let me move on from beliefs and values to thoughts and feelings. Thoughts and feelings. I will explain what thoughts really are from my perspective, and feelings too, as we go along. But as you look at that diagram, you can see from stimuli, whatever that stimuli was, whether it was a young girl to an adult or so, to belief and values, to obviously which is culture, we start to look at the thoughts and feelings of individuals. Then that cascaded down to two things. After thoughts and feelings comes what's on your left, which is called sensation. So we evoke a feeling through a thought, and sensation is the next thing that happens in the line of how things run. In the way one is feeling, we look over on the right-hand side on the same level, and the word there is assumption. Everybody makes assumptions, and some people make presumptions. What's the difference? A presumption is made upon some even basic facts. An assumption is made according to beliefs and values and culture and the way the person thinks, prefer to think, the way they prefer to feel, the sensations they have, and it has no facts at all to represent it. So that's the way it runs, to assumption. Now, both sensation and interpretation, as you can see, is actually morphed into interpretation. So just follow me. Thoughts, feelings, sensation, assumptions, interpretation. How does the individual interpret all of those things that came before it? And normally, again, I underline through culture, values, and beliefs, which they believe is their Bible. That transfers to perceptions. How does one perceive any bit of information is based on interpretation, is it not? Now, this is where you have to follow this as I call it out. So as you look at this diagram, on the left is emotion. One gets emotional because of the perception in their heads. Emotions for me is a feeling only. It hasn't really got labels as we are being told and taught about negative emotions. There's a whole list of 12. And I say, if you don't identify with the labels given to emotions, emotions just simply remain emotions. An emotion, how long does it last? 5 seconds. So remember that the next time somebody says, "Ah, you're getting emotional," and you realize that you are, is it worth getting all het up and identified with a label for 5 seconds? The way you feel for 5 seconds? Then after the 5 seconds, it prolongs to up to 2 minutes. And that's the first indication of a mood. So as you look at it, look at emotion, look inward, you see the word mood, which is also tied up with perceptions. And how long does moods last? Moods last for hours and hours and hours. And watch, go to your right again, temperament. After hours, if it starts to last for days and months and years, it's a temperament or temperament, as we say. And again, perception has a lot to do with it. Now, once we get into this temperament, move to your right again, and you will see that's what forms one's attitude. If you can speak to me through the chat, let me know what you think about the way I've gone about this. The way I'm painstakingly pointing out the different sections of how we get to certain, mentality and then mindsets. And as you look at the bottom of all this, pointing from emotions, mood, temperament, and attitude, you will see 2 words there: narcissism stroke gaslighting. That's the end of the first offer for you. Now we go to thoughts. What are thoughts? I hear you ask. Thoughts are the language of the brain. Always remember that. The brain has transmitters, it's got receivers. Things are going in, things are coming out. Things are being processed. But it's a language and a coding for the brain. There are also things called thought filters. Filters distort reality. And distortive thinking is one of those distortions. Remember that psychologically, the proper name for that is cognitive distortion. Whichever way you look at it, distortion is distortion. I just want to run your mind back to when you were probably younger and you went to a fair. And they always had this kind of room where there were different mirrors, and some mirrors would make you look extraordinarily big. Some would make you look really small. Some would make your face look elongated and your bodies look elongated. That's distortion. And so therefore then, I can then move on to the second article on the thought filters. And it says, can generate stressful emotions. Well, the way they've put that, stressful emotions, what does that really mean? Well, first of all, I've got to tell you, an emotion is a hormone. And all hormones are made up of chemical mix. When we say we have, a stressful emotion, it means that the two chemicals that got together has made a toxic mixture. And that's what makes you feel so-called stressed. I trust that makes sense. Now let me define stress to you. Stress is just a commonplace word for all different types of stress. There is distress, which keeps you in a mood, gets you into a temperament, and forms one's attitude. But there's also another type of stress. Think about saying, you know what, I don't feel too good, I don't feel fit enough, I'm going to go for, some walks. So you go for some walks, maybe you walk for 2, 3, 4, 5 miles, who knows how far. You've seen people running past you jogging. You've seen people go into the gym and coming out and telling you they're feeling fitter. You laugh, you smile, you celebrate, you have sex, you hug somebody. That's stress as well, by the way. But that's called eustress, which is eustress. And that's good stress. So what happens when we have good stress? We start to make every single drug that they're selling on the street for money. When one says, I want to feel high, they don't mean always smoking something, injecting something, although that's part of what they think. You don't have to do that. You just be in a happy mood and see if you don't feel good. When you laugh, are you laughing and feeling pain? Or are you laughing and feeling good? You're feeling good. And so we have things like serotonin. We have things like dopamine. Just to name a couple, I don't want to go through the whole thing. Whereas under distress, D-I-S-T-R-E-S-S side of things, we have adrenaline, because when you're frightened or you're anxious or you're afraid, stressful things happen. People going into the ring to have a boxing match, you're getting ready to compete, you get stressed, and you get cortisol, and you get adrenaline. Just those two I want to name for now. I'm sure you probably know the rest of them. How many thoughts does one have within each 24 hours? This is important. It is reported that individuals have 60,000 to 70,000 thoughts per 24 hours. And here am I distilling scientifically how many of those thoughts are positive. 10% only. That means only 6,000 to 7,000 thoughts of the 130 thoughts are positive. 117,000 thoughts are negative. Can you believe that? So when you're stressing yourself out and you get addicted to your stress and you still keep thinking negative and identifying with negative thoughts and negative labels, there is also something that you don't know. There is a blockage called negative blocks, emotional blocks that block you from escaping your moods, your temperament. And of course, in those vile ways that you might be thinking, sad ways that you might be thinking, you cannot think straight. Imagine what that does to your kidney, because all stress attacks your kidney. So we move on to feelings. What are feelings? Feelings are the language of the body. We all know that. I don't have to tell you that. Where does feelings come from? It's the imagery and the experiences that we've been through. Normally, you always hear this regretful thing back home. If I did follow my mind. Yeah? In other words, your logical conscious mind, your logical mind told you x plus x is 2x. And you go on and put down x plus x is x. So you get the sum wrong or the decision wrong, and then you turn around and you blame everybody else. Mind, what is it? Mind is the body in motion. So let's just quickly look at mind. So you've got conscious mind on one side and you've got subconscious mind on the other side. The conscious mind is a logical sequencing. Yes, it's really like, it's a tick sheet. And so therefore, if you had, let's say, 3 things, 3 items, and you've got yes and no boxes, you are looking forward to ticking all 3 boxes in order to approve that that's logical. One thing follows the other. Yes? However, if you put 2 ticks in and 1 X, the mind gets confused. Have you ever felt confused? Put it in the chat. Yes, yes, or yes. That's the only answer I'll be accepting. And so therefore, we quickly look at the opposite. There's subconscious mind. Now that's the one that's a little bit complicated. Oh, by the way, the conscious mind is also the creative side of your mind. But on the subconscious mind, imagine a barrel. We're packing a barrel to send to Africa or Jamaica or somewhere. And we always put the things like the shoes and all them things at the base, you know, inside at the base. And all the lovely things that we don't want to get crushed up too much, we put that in the middle. And then all the rough stuff that you don't mind, you put it at the top. Well, think of your subconscious mind as a barrel, where you put all of those lovely things is where all of our experiences are stored. It's the experience bank. But guess what? Like a sponge sucking up water, that's what this does, the subconscious mind. So imagine if you had a traumatic childhood, a traumatic adolescence, and now you're in your 30s and still wondering, how come I got lost somewhere around? Why did this one do that to me? Why did that one say that to me? And we keep whining and whining and whining and whining. Do you know what? It's going to stay right there. we also have ancestral behaviors that impact us. I want you to know that. And like Queen Jean said earlier on, not all our ancestors were really good. Some of them were very traumatic. Some, even in my time, and even in this time, one family, all the same children to the same, man and woman. And one is fair-skinned, or two are fair-skinned, and the rest are dark. And there is discrimination in the family, where the dark-skinned one is out of favor and been ignored many times over and above the one with lighter skin. Now we see the damage that has done, because people with very dark skin is suddenly turning white, whether they're using sandpaper or they're using bleaching cream. So that is, the emotions and the temperament and the interpretations help to form the way we think. Let's go on to the next one. The end product of an experience is an emotion. So I trust you got that. The end product of an experience is an emotion. So how many experiences have you got? Do you know? Can you check it? It's a whole heap. That's all I can say from a Jamaican point of view. Now you have also got stirred up feelings, which in turn triggers more negative thoughts, creating a negative feedback loop. And when I say loop, if you could put your hands in that little gully in the back of your neck, in your nape, and then move it up slightly to just before you come to the top. There's a little peaky bit there, a little piece of bone sticking out. That is the parietal area. And the parietal area is all about the vision. When you can imagine and you can visualize, guess what? It's playing a little video there of all of our experiences on a loop. It never stops. Some people can't sleep, some people have insomnia because of that same problem. Now, let's move on to mental health. So back again, cognitive distortion, distorted thinking is a form of it. Well, the cause of people thinking in that way is because they are totally depressed or they're suffering from anxiety or panic attack. But it becomes a habit. And because it becomes a habit, addiction takes place. I wasn't able to go through the whole 15 because that would take more than 1 hour. But I brought you blame. How many people are blaming themselves for everything that happens to them? How many people are blaming others for everything that happens to them? Blame is an addictive behavior. In fact, the whole cognitive distortion and distorted thinking are addictive behaviors. And now we come to the word addiction. What is the meaning of addiction? I will give you an abstract. Look at it. So number one, it tells you addiction is compulsive need for and use of a habit-forming substance. Compulsive need. That's what habits do. Get you to a stage where you are compulsory, way of thinking and acting. The second part says it is accepted as a mental illness and results in substantial health, social, and economic problems. Speaks for itself, doesn't it? Addiction was originally included in the personality disorders along with other behaviors considered deviant. So there was a time when it wasn't really looked at very seriously. It was more of a trendy thing. So the more out of order, as we said back home, people were, you know, people might say, yes, what a wicked so a woman or a wicked man, and they meant terrible, but they would still respect that person, you know, in some way or form, say, you know, them just deviant, man, them just deviant. Well, let me first of all put to you, what is personality? It says a personality disorder. What is personality? Remember this acronym, TAF. T is for the way we choose to think. And I'm going to refer back to belief and values, which has a great influence on that. Culture, which have a great influence on that. So the way we choose to think. A, the way we choose to act. Again, reference back to belief and values, aka culture. And F, the way we choose to feel. And again, I refer back to what we accept as culture and what we accept as values and belief. Now we move on to say there's been a categorization of addiction, you know. It is now considered a clinical syndrome. Addiction is multifactorially determined with substantial genetic influence, environmental factors, and an interplay between the two. Multifactorially determined. What does that mean? Multi just means many factors, if you like, has been studied and journalized, and theories have come out and laws have been made in the psychiatric and the psychological arenas. And now it's classified as very serious indeed. That's why it's called a clinical syndrome. In the clinical context, addiction puts problem substance use on the agenda and help focus on the difficulties associated with drug use. Wow, what happened to my... Come back, please, come back. Yeah. What happens when learning takes place? Because we are always learning, but what are we learning? It's really the quality of learning that matters, doesn't it? Yeah? So learning is making new synaptic connections. Now, you know, we've got synapses, that's more than one synapse, yeah? Synapses in our brain. They make connections all the time. So every time we learn something, it's making new synaptic connections, and remembering whatever it is we remember is maintaining and sustaining those synaptic connections. I want to move swiftly to types of addictions. I just named a few, there are many more. Types of addictions: A, eating, shopping, gambling, alcohol, drugs, and smoking. If you know of any more, what about behavior? Of course, I've already said that earlier on. Now we move on. That was mental health 1, mental health A. This is now mental health B. Now, when we've got to a certain level of disgusting behaviors, we have to name them so that people know how far these people who are affected are going. Let's look at narcissism. What is narcissism? Yeah, it's an individual thing, and you know, you got lots of narcissists. They're really nasty to people about who they are and all of this. So I thought I would just share this with you. There are two types of narcissism as far as I know. One is called grandiose narcissism, and it says it's characterized by an exaggerated sense of superiority, extroversion, and domineering behavior. Does that not remind you of Wazungu? Yes? Wazungu is suffering very much from grandiose narcissism because they're always talking about supremacist. That is a sense of superiority. They're always extroverted and not thinking about the introverts' need to process. They demand so much from the introverts, and they're domineering. I am going to say Trump. I'm not going to say any more after that, because I think he's a classic example. So that's for grandiose. There's also vulnerable narcissism, which is characterized by excessive self-absorption, excessive introversion, and excessive insecurity. Self-absorption, what does that mean? Well, I'm absorbed with me. Nobody else is out there. Nobody else is there, just me, you know? Introversion, well, there's really nothing wrong with introversion because it's just a form of how the person processes information. But sometimes you over-process it and go over it again and again. And I'll give you one little example. I couldn't find my keys. And I'm looking everywhere for these keys. I'm looking in the drawers, in the sideboard. I'm looking in the cupboard. I'm looking, where else did I go? In the other room and in the kitchen and on the balcony. I come back in and my daughter was laughing at me. I said, Dad, what are you looking for? I said, well, my keys. She said, Dad, have you looked on the thing I bought you where it says keys? I never looked at it. I looked and it wasn't there. And I went back to the sideboard, which has 3 drawers, and I was looking in the 3 drawers, although I've looked into the 3 drawers about 6 or 7 times before. So, you know, this is just crazy. The second vulnerable narcissism is love to act offended over nothing. How many people do you know are like that? Are you like that? Don't answer that. It might be self-incriminating. The next part, love to play the victim. Now, I call these people me victims. Do you see? Love to play the victim. And they do it for more than a reason. They do it because they get more attention when they play the victim. If you are a true victim, nobody's going to say anything to you apart from show you a lot of empathy. But, you know, people play other people up. 4, loves to play dumb. So you spend your precious energy explaining to them again and again and again. Number 5, love to overreact to innocuous statements you make. So you just make a little statement. You might say, look, pick up the thing, man. You drop the thing on the floor. You can't leave it there. And you make a big deal out of it. How many people do you know? I trust you will be honest with yourselves. Gaslighting. Highly manipulative. Individuals recognize manipulative behaviors and know they're doing them, but they still continue to do so. How many people have manipulated you or attempted to? Two, they use different tactics based on how they come across to others. We have a name in Jamaica for those people, Jinal. All right? They are controlling and want people to care about their needs. So only their needs are important, yours isn't. I'm sure you must at some point met somebody like that. And if you haven't, you're about to meet some. Please remember what I said. Now there's another type that has both narcissism and gaslighting. Ism. Yes? Gaslighting narcissists, these are called. So they got both traits. What is a gaslighting narcissist about? Gaslighting narcissistic personality disorder. They just shorten it and call it NPS, but it is meant to be GNPS. Gaslighting narcissistic personality disorder. And just a couple of notes for that. Gaslighting is a form of psychological stroke emotional abuse where the abuser manipulates situations repeatedly to trick the victim into doubting his or her memory, perception, or sanity. Now, wouldn't that drive you crazy? It would drive me crazy. Somebody is causing me, tricking me to believe and doubting myself, doubting my memory. Did this happen? Did it really happen? Because the other person said it didn't happen, you know. Did it drive you nuts? Perception or sanity? Gaslighting is a form of mind control that leaves victims afraid to trust their own experience and memories of situation. You remember when this and that happened? Yeah, man, me remember it. Yeah, me remember it. And this and that did happen. No, sir, no, sir, go. How many times have you heard that? No, sir, no, sir, go. Because my version is the movie. Yours is nothing compared to my version. Gaslighters are self-centered. Only me upon this earth. Just me alone, not you. You're not here. You're invisible. And of course, they have an obsessive need for admiration. With that, I will just say to you, there is a cure for any form of addiction. Just before I tell you what that is, let me say this. Respect people who are addicted. It's very difficult to know what to say to them. One thing nobody needs is sympathy, because that's just like not good, okay? Nobody needs sympathy. But you can arouse the empathy, even if you can't do anything for the person. At least acknowledge that this person had a family before, yes, or was part of a family, you know, and they didn't used to behave like this. This is because they're haunted by whatever it is that's bothering them. Those experiences given to them through beliefs and values that don't belong to them, but they do believe it is theirs. It's like not believing that your shadow is outside of you. Some people believe shadows only come out late at night or in the morning when it's in front of us. We wonder how it gets there. And in the Noontime, we are standing on top of our shadows, and afternoons, our shadows are behind us. So it's moving at a rapid rate. My words, your ears, your minds, I trust I have brought to your attention a lot of things that disturbs me and make you better aware of what makes me have a Black experience research. I don't believe it will ever stop. I think it's something that will pass on from one generation to the next, and I trust that will happen. I don't have an exhaustive list, but I can tell you about what I know and what you may have been through. And if you haven't been through it, be aware. Be better aware. When you become better aware, you're more prepared for the unusual. If you don't want to get addicted behaviors, get into that. If you don't want to become an addict, you've got to learn to let go of the traumas that happened to you. You may not have the tools, you may not know how to do it, but think about this. If I use a needle and thread to make a hem on my trouser, if that thread is something I no longer want on it because I've grown and now I can take the full length of the trouser as it used to be, guess what? I will take out the thread the same way as how it went in. Does that give you a clue? You can reverse the process. And the best way to do that is to let the past be the past. If you bring people who are addicted, are people who are bringing traumatic, and listen, I'm not demeaning, people's trauma. Believe me, it must be very hard to shift. But speaking as a coach, knowing that there are tools to help, there are therapies to help, there are specialisms to help, and there are specialists to bring those specialisms to you. Our beliefs and values, our culture has kept us and kept counseling and coaching and all of these stuff, as a voodoo thing. There's a stigma. Don't let the stigma get to you. If you had dirt on your body, dirt on your clothes, would you wash yourself? Would you have a shower or a bath? Would you wash your clothes? Yes, you would. But if you want to be clean of all of those traumas, I urge you, leave the past in the past, turn your neck 90 degrees, look at the past, and see that were many moons ago, maybe many moments ago, many days ago, many months ago, many years ago, many generations ago. You must be able to let it go, because now you have got more sense, you got more experience, and if those things was to face you again, you would not react in the same way. Perhaps it happened when you were a very innocent child, and for that, I know it must be hard. I too have had things done to me, but you will read in my autobiography, and you are going to cry. I'm going to become a tissue millionaire, by the way, because I'm going to invest in tissues before I publish that book, because I'm sure you're going to shed some tears for Dr. Lyndon. I want to conclude now by giving you just one thing. People's addictions keep them as addicts and sometimes kill them as addicts with overdose and stuff like that. Because whatever they're taking in, whether it's a drug or, a legal drug or illegal drug, whether it's alcohol, whatever it might be, do you know what? Whatever they're using only lasts like a painkiller. a painkiller only lasts maximum 4 hours. That's why the doctors say to you, take it 6 times a day, or every 3 times a day, or whatever. Yeah, because they know that your nervous system will only keep stum like that for the maximum of 4 hours. Then you'll need another one. And that's how Big Pharma got rich, by the way, because they know that secret. Yeah? So, like a Hungarian psychologist in Canada said to me, he said, Dr. Lyndon, therapy is what you've learned, but therapy doesn't always happen for some people. So the majority of the people, therapy is a temporary thing. It's a treatment. If you want to cure the addict, because one time I wouldn't coach addicts because I didn't have the expertise, I don't think. But if you really want to treat, to cure the addict, do not treat the addiction, treat the pain. My name is Dr. Lyndon, and I approve this message. Thank you.
Give thanks, Dr. Lyndon. Give thanks.
Thank
Give
you
thanks.
very
Give
much.
thanks.
Thank
You'd like
you.
to stop screen sharing so we can
Yes,
see
I've done
you.
that. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'd like to open up the floor for some questions. If anybody got any questions, I mean, that was a heavy topic. And the thing is, it's something that needs to be spoken about. We don't speak about certain topics, and that's one of the topics we don't speak about, but we all know that it's happening, what's going on. So is anybody would like to unmute or raise your hands to ask a question or make a comment to pertaining to what Dr. Lyndon was being, Dr. Lyndon's presentation? You got everybody stunned, Dr. Lyndon.
Don't make it addictive. Don't make it addictive.
Oh, so Anne-Marie, you have a question?
Well, not really a question, just that, oh, thank you very much. I've written it in the chat, you're a philosopher, you're very good.
Thank you, my dear.
Excellent, and you've made it so simple to understand and presentation fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, that's okay.
For your kind comments. Thank you, Anne-Marie.
That's all right.
Can I just say, thank you very much for that. That was so thought-provoking. But where can we get your books? If you've got any books out, I'm sure you have.
I have a book. Thank you very much for asking that question. I have one book that's published back in 2014. It is coming under the genre of fiction, but I can assure you that every single scenario in that book is real life. I'll give you a little hint. What happened is I had this brainwave and it said, why don't you write a book about all the behaviors on Earth, but it's happening somewhere else? So I decided, you know, one mad moment of intuition said, why can't you just invent a new planet which runs parallel with Earth so nobody can touch the other one? And then upload all of Earth's behaviors to this planet, let these people live it, have scientists making notes and statistics and sending back the consequences of those behaviors to Earth for restorative learning. And that's what that book is about.
Thank you.
You can have that book. You can go to Amazon, Barnes and Noble, virtually any one of those. You can go to my website, which I will put in the chat for you to extract.
Thank you.
Okay,
And
Sister Kesheni, and then Annie Aniana? Sister
Give
Kesheni?
thanks. Good evening. Give thanks. Good evening. What has stood out for me is this addiction to the sexual interaction with children and so on. I was quite surprised at how you talked about it, and it's how it is in Jamaica. I was quite surprised. I suppose, a bit of a rude awakening. It seems, you live in the West and you think, it's the dirty Babylon, and of course we know it happens with black people, but the way that you described, the thing of like the mango and the laughter and the pleasure, I was very disturbed by it, I have to say. And where is this? Because it's not our culture. So where is the mindset of these men? It's a man thing where these men are thinking, how come they've lost that value? Where is it gone? How do we, clean them up, if you like? I know we may not, we can't incarcerate them, because it doesn't go anywhere. Do we clean them up? How can we do something on the outside? I'm struggling, to see where is the solution? I'm just like, I feel like, oh, what can we do?
A great question, Kinishinwa. Let me tell you something. You see, pedophilia is a mental disorder.
Okay.
And I was really referring to people who are pedophiles. Yeah? They are pedophiles to do that to children.
Yeah.
There's not one pedophile worse than the other. Yeah? But somebody says, oh, it might not happen, but I want to tell you something. It happens too often. Much too often. And it's taken for granted that even politicians are doing it. Now they've started on the boys now, apparently. Yes? They're now luring them into big established places. I don't want to say exactly where, but where politicians have access, buying these little PS games for them, going into the
Azarius.
Sorry?
Sorry, carry on.
Going into the ghetto and teasing them, because they know their parents cannot afford these little games. Huh? And then say, do you want to play this game? Oh, yes, sir. Well, I'll come and pick you up. Have you got any more friends? Well, I have a good friend, sir. Can he come as well, or she come as well? And they say yes. And they come with big limousines, pick up these two children. Nobody in the ghetto questioning them because, they're just sitting there watching. They take the children away. They let them play on these games for a while. And then somebody comes down and kind of talk to them very friendly, of the good cop and the bad cop, right? Yeah? And they say, right, okay, did you enjoy your game, or are you enjoying the game? Yes. Well, Mr. So-and-so want to see you upstairs. Is his house, and he want to talk to you. And the two children get up and say, no, one at a time. And that little child goes up and is being abused in politicians' homes. This is not something I'm making up. This is something that disgusts me. And when I get home, I will be going to the University of the West Indies, and you listen out for how I'm going to be saying. And if I don't live after that, I don't care, because somebody's got to say it. It's being swept under the carpet all the time. Oh, it's culture, man. You don't know so them things that happen, man. Yeah, it happen all the time. Like, okay, we have to just accept it because that's the way it is. Yeah? There's a documentary team from this country went to Jamaica and went around many of the parishes. I'm not sure they got through the whole 14 and now it's 15. And they said, wow, you know, we're gonna really go back to it and we're gonna put this in a documentary. It's got to stop, it's got to stop. And the people said to them, say, so who you think we learned it from? You see what I'm saying? Who you think we learned it from?
Yes,
Remember that the slaves, when they enslaved us, our ancestors, what they did to the children in front of their parents, what they did to the women in front of their partners, and what they did to the men in front of their sons. Nothing has changed. All it has done is floated into the minds of our own people. And now they are also the abusers of our children and our women and even now our men. I'll tell you this, because I don't have anything to hide. I'll just say this. I was kidnapped at 12 years old by a pedophile. But you see, because I was born and grown in Trenchtown, I had my ratchet in my back pocket going. Now, this was a setup because this pedophile was already abusing a boy, which I noticed none of my brethren them don't talk to. I mean, I said, wait, what happened to the brother over there? So them said, no, don't talk to him. But they wouldn't tell me because they know how I am. So I was a scout. I went scout, you know, the scout meeting. And my parents always tell me, they do even give me bus fare. Them say, walk your foot. And I was walking my foot. And I see this little Beetle, Volkswagen Beetle. I didn't know whose car it was. Pass me. And then it stopped up the road. And I'm on this side of the road, there on that side of the road. And this person shout my name. And it was this same boy that lived on the corner of the street. And he said, you want a lift? I said, you have car? Are you okay? He said, no. There's a scout master giving him a lift. We give him a lift every time he comes scout. Because I'm new to the scout, eh? So I said, no, man, no. My parents said I must walk. So I walk and them then drag and them stop. And them drive and them stop. And eventually, like a fool, I said, okay, because I had a briefcase with 10 books. Because when you go in grammar school, it's 10 subjects, you know, right? So you have to carry them big, heavy book every day. So I said, you know what, this thing feel a bit heavy, you know. It never feel heavy before, no. It feel heavy now. So I went, and of course, him jump out the front, you broke down the seat, I have to go in the back with my briefcase. Let me tell you something. I noticed this man driving a different way, and I'm saying to him, yo, no. You have to go up that street for go. He said, no, sir, we know where we're going. It's fine. So anyway, him come to the top end near RJR. And of course, when he came down, he stopped near the traffic light. The boy jump out and go, so. And the man just start driving off. So I said, no, me have to come out yourself. And he didn't answer me. Well, you know how I got out? I had to get violent. I had to back out my ratchet and put it at him throat and press it. I remember me tell you, so my ratchet sharpened both sides and it have garlic on it. So he would never know until him is dying. I was ready to go and be hung for taking a life rather than to be abused. Because you wouldn't be talking to me now. I would not be able to live that down. And I pressed it and I said to him, stop the car or I'll go and bust your neck. And he stopped the car. I said, turn off the engine and give me the key. Now, who is the bad man now? Huh? Who is the bad man now? You have to know how to survive, and if that's what you have to do to survive, you survive. So then I pulled the seat, I came out, and there was a gully about, let me say, about 3 minutes walk. And I walked and I threw the key over the gully. I said, go get your car key now. And I walk home. So you see, I know what I'm talking about. I've seen men raping women, standing, you know them old electric poles, yes? The wooden ones, yes? Standing there, raping a young girl going to the shop. And I ran home for something. I don't want to say what it was. And by the time I come back, the girl gone and him across the road. But he's supposed to be the local bad man. He beat up all police. So everybody afraid of him, but I wasn't afraid of him. And I tell him if he never do it again, right? If I see him do it again, then he have to kill me. That's how I stay. Because I had a terrible temper. And one night we sitting down on my fence, you know, breeze black fence. And this little road that we live on, it have a little corner. And we could hear this woman's voice crying, crying, crying. And all I could hear is boof, boof, stop the noise, boof. He was kicking her along the street. Physically kicking her along the street. And she's rolling trying to get away from him. And all the big people them come out, man and woman, and cussing him, but nobody's stopping him. So I said, no, I can't take this. And I run inside and I took the machete where we used to cut the coconut. You know, the one with the little curve on the end, the bill.
Yeah.
And I came, I didn't chop him, but I lick him in the back I made with it. And him drop. And that's when the big man them come now and deal with him. So I have many more stories like this. And it's going to be in my autobiography, which I'm writing. I won't be able to finish it probably this year because the amount of things that I have to put in there, I might have to do volume 1 and volume 2.
All right. We've got a question for Aniana. You have your question? Thank you for that, Dr. Lyndon.
You're more than welcome.
I think Sister Kesheni answered a question she said in the chat.
Sorry?
I can't see a chat because I'm using my...
No, she said Sister and Kesheni.
Okay, all right. So we move on to Sister Amma. Thank you. Thank you, Chase.
Wow, Dr. Linton. When you started talking and you, I'm feeling so emotional. The beginning of your talk, when you were describing the men standing there talking about waiting for the fruit to ripen.
Oh, yes.
I have witnessed that more than once in Africa.
Yes.
So when I heard, when I hear you, Sister Kesheni saying that it's not in our culture, I don't know when it started in Africa and the places where I come, I've been and witnessed, but it's there.
Yes.
It's there, and it's heartbreaking.
Yes.
And you are holding back because when you said it makes you feel like the way you've expressed to us, it's so, it's so palpable. It's so, but how, I'm just thinking of a question now because I just had to acknowledge that. How are you encouraging other young students to, maybe work with you, to follow in your footsteps? When you said you're going to take it to the West Indies, are you going to encourage them?
I have been, good question. Thank you very much. And thanks for your confirmation that it's not just in the Caribbean, it's in Africa, it's in Brazil, it's everywhere that we are at. Now, we're not saying other people are not doing this. I'm talking just about our people. Yeah. So thank you for that. Yeah. I have been working in schools for 52 years, and me and my family run projects for the local, you know, local children and the sort of the local authority and, you know, all of that stuff. I've done 52 years. Me and my family. I don't say I'm not doing anything now, but I've got now a different way and a different sort of part to my mission and purpose. Yeah, I want to speak about this in Jamaica because I know I will be the enemy, but I like to take that chance because I know, just like how you've just come out and said you've witnessed that, you know, lots of people are dying to come out and say something, but they're scared because there's all these garrison communities. There's the Don, the Donkey, and Donna, and everybody, yeah? And everybody's got somebody next to them, and they got weapons, yeah? In my time as a child, there weren't many weapons apart from, like I said, the machete was a normal thing for everybody to have, to chop sticks or to chop coconut or whatever. So you had access to things like that. You had stone, yes, that was our biggest weapon. Take up 2 stone and bust him head or whatever, make him stop, yeah? But it is more ingrained than one man can do, yes? What man can do is write about it, make plays about it, make films about it. You see what I'm saying? Yeah? And don't forget, you know, Sister Amma, let me tell you something. Right now, I am like what you watch in the ocean, and the water was all nice and calm, and now it's very choppy. That's how I'm feeling inside, and I've been feeling the whole of this today. Yeah, like I said before, because I know I had to deliver what is an addictive behavior, and in the end, what is addiction. And this is just flowing from me now. It's just flowing. When I prepare, I just do my research and preparation, because preparation is 75% of presentation. Yeah. But I never have a book or a notepad or a card to cue me. Lyndon opens up, he opens up. I've always been like this. But to satisfy your question, I believe you can all help me. If you're all willing to do this under the auspices of the Black Experience Research, I would like you to take the details from the chat and write to me. Tell me what you have experienced or know about or have seen. And all I'm going to be doing is to put the actual experiences together. I won't name you. So please feel safe enough that you won't be named. Yes? So people can identify you. Because what we need is the experiences, the Black experiences. Let's get it out there. We can do a book, we can do a film, we can do plays, there's so many things we can do, videos. Listen, it doesn't have to be a very expensive play. All of us are actors anyway. So, you know, we could collate our talents. And who wants to do script writing? Who wants to do this? Who wants to do that? But let's get the info into the one place. At least let's start the unity from here. That's my strategy. It's about we need to live in unity. That's what makes every other nationality take us for a joke. Because our addictive behaviors are holding the whole of us back.
That is true. We got 2 more questions. Galactic Clyde, and then last question from Delroy. Galactic Clyde, do you still have your question?
Yes, yes. Greetings, greetings, Dr. Linton. Thank you for
Greetings,
your.
my brother, Galactic
Yes,
Clyde.
yes. I put a question in the chat, but the question is what's your suggestion of our community deal with such issues when it comes up? How you think that we should resolve it? You know, the issue of sexuality, sexual predators in our community that preyed on the old, young, the little, and the boys and the girls, or what have you. What is your suggestion on that?
I have lots of thoughts as how to go about this. And I will get to that straight away in a minute. But let me say this. There is also another thing that's happening where our children and grandchildren or whomever, they're disappearing. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, yeah,
On a more frequent sort of scale.
yeah.
Well, somebody out there is harvesting body parts.
Yes.
And I want to tell you, melanin is more expensive than putting all the diamonds in the world on the market. Yeah, all the gold, all the silver, that's nothing today. Melanin, a man weighing 200 pounds, melanin is worth 3 million pounds. 3 million, let me tell you that. They don't like black people, but they have to use black people body parts. Now, coming back to Galactic Clyde, yes. So I believe, Galactic Clyde, we have to divide our areas in north, south, east, and west. So that means we will have 4 ports where our ships can anchor. And we get, you know, there's always leadership in every area. Get the leaders together. So let's say we have 4 leaders together. We sit down, we said, you know what? Do you know about this? This is happening, and we can't make it happen no more. Right? It might be your family, it might be my family, it might be somebody we don't know, but it's still black, Nubian, melanin, African people. And once we get the 4 stock, you know, sort of bits of pieces of information, we now get each of the leaders to recruit other people who are interested. And so what we do a conference to start with, a conference from the east by their representatives, a conference from the north, the south, and the west. Yes, we do it, especially with this kind of platform. It would be wonderful to have a conference about these things on the Garvey, you know, platform, the Garvey Village platform. Don't you think?
Yes.
Yes, I agree.
Yes.
I agree. Is that something like a council of elders in connection?
Well, the elders, you say, I say whomever is a leader. You see, we've got to look for leadership rather than age.
Yeah, council of leadership. Okay.
Council of leadership, my brother. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
I'm ready right now. Ready right now to start. Yeah. We have to do it because everybody wants us to die. They got vaccines, they got this, they got that, you know, and our people, look, we've got 87% of the prison population is black, Nubian, melanin, African people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you familiar, doctor, with the role that a plant medicine such as iboga plays in the role of addiction? Iboga?
I really am a little bit behind on that, I must confess.
Okay. I'll update you on that. Yeah.
Would you please? Yes. You know, my Queen Gina's got my details, and her staff has got my details. If you write to the Black Experience Research, you know, let's talk about it, man. Let's initiate it, and let's encourage the other areas to do the same.
Okay, brilliant. We've got to quickly move on. So quick question, last question from Brother Delroy, and if you could answer quickly as well.
Okay, I will.
All right, give thanks.
Greetings, Dr. Lyndon.
Greetings.
Just to say, do you know, I presume you do, but can you say a bit about the 12-step recovery system or process? The reason I'm bringing that up is in connection to addictions, because their approach to addiction is very much like the way you name those different kinds of addictions.
Yeah.
Do you have a view on that in terms of African heritage people?
Yes, I would simply say this, as Brother Galactic Clyde is going to inform me of the nature, yes, the nature, right? But for me, like I said in the end, I like cure rather than treatment. Yeah, I want us to start seeking cures. There's lots of roots and berries and leaves and barks and everything that is in our hands. Yes? We must source these things. Yes? I want to tell you something, my brother. And I'm glad you mentioned about the 12 steps. You see, for me, I've learned therapy, but I don't do therapy like the rest of my colleagues do therapy. For me, if you have a situation, Brother Delroy, and I said to you, I can make you better, would you trust me?
Not really. I tend to feel that it's internal, you know, healing.
Thank you. Thank you. So already we are on the right track. Yeah? My way of therapy is to assist and service the individual, bringing different kind of tools that I know and searching for other tools. Yes? Because if we get rid of the pain, the person stops being...
silent.
Sorry?
So you went silent for a while, yeah.
Oh, I don't know what happened there. But when we get rid of the pain, the person will stop being an addict. They're only being an addict because they're in pain. Does that help?
Connected.
Yes and no. I suppose. Sorry, what is your knowledge of the 12 steps and what's
We have to make it quick, Delroy.
Well, I tell you what. Can you write to me and the Black?
Yeah. Let me do that. Yeah.
All right, and we'll take it from there, my brother.
Yeah.
Thank you very much as well. Thank you for your question, and Galactic Clyde as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lyndon. As I said, we could have gone. We need to do a special with you. Honestly, we really do need to do a special with you because, as I said, we always go over time, but it's well worth going over time because the information that you have and the information that you share with us is very valuable. And today's topic is even more valuable because it's the unspoken. It's always known about, but it's not spoken about. Yeah. And thank you for bringing it to the fore. And thank you. The more we bring it to the fore is the more it can help to squash it.
Yeah.
Because it keeps on going on because nobody says anything.
That's right. Yeah. So, and not saying anything is an approval for the perpetrator.
That's right. It gives them the power to keep on going. Yeah. So Dr. Lyndon Waters, thank you very much and looking forward to next month. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And with this now, we're going to move swiftly on to our sister Kemet. Our sister Shez, have you got the clip? Because I've actually found it now, but you've got it all lined up. So if we can put it on, and then after we call Sister Kemet to the screen. Thank you. There's no sound.
Everything that goes with it. Imagine this, the 8th of May, they're having a...
Can you hear it now?
Yeah. Can you rewind? Thank you.
Don't tell me what to do. I'm the
Just let's
operator.
rewind to something, please.
Hey, listen. I'm not on the dance now, yeah? All right, hold on.
All right.
Oh, it's going to take ages now. Hold on. Right. I'll play the ting again.
Thank you.
Today, family, of this nasty, dirty scum, demon, narcissist, everything that goes with it. Imagine this: the 8th of May, they're having an ancestral observance day in South Africa, asking everybody to come out and honour our ancestors, because we know, well, most of you should know, who's of a consciousness, that many of our African leaders have been killed. A lot of the ministers recently has been taken out, and in South Africa you've had kings taken out, the Zulu Queen, and all kind of things happening out there. So there's a whole roll call to have an observance day in honour of our ancestors on the 8th of May, a national on our ancestors, so we can just ask for guidance, protections, and so forth. Because you got this dirty scum that's saying that how calling on his people to come together to counteract what we're supposed to be doing, and what we're doing is worshipping our ancestors. That's all we're doing. Well, we're not even worshipping them, because we worship the Most High. Honouring our ancestors, but he's calling it a demonic call, that we're calling upon demons and telling people to stop it with whatever they're going to do, because stop whatever we're doing, counteract it, because we're having an observance day. In other words, how dare we in his nation? Well, I didn't know he was having it in the Caucasus Mountains. Exactly. He's saying his nation, like South Africa, belongs to him. No, it doesn't. But when you're having black people in your townships and under apartheid, and want to say we're calling on demons, when the demons are in your history, not in ours, because you did everything out of murder, rape, and pillage. Exactly. So how dare you insult us for wanting to have an ancestral observance day? And I think anybody that doesn't come together, whether in your household or within your community, and come together on the 8th of May and have a strong observance in recognition of our ancestors, we're rising to this dirty piece of scum's bait. He's a lowlife, he's nasty, his demonic state comes out, and his nation is the Caucasus Mountains. What come out of that? Never ours. This is based on fear, their fear of us as a people coming together and practicing what we should be practicing, spirituality, African spirituality. So I urge everybody on the 8th of May, at your altars, honour your ancestors. Check the video out.
And I want you just to see how urgent the time is that we are living in. Basically, what has happened is the following, all right? On Saturday, the 8th of May, there's been a call for a national focus on ancestral worship. They are calling for everybody to go and worship the ancestors on the 8th. And so we need to do something very, very quickly. Saints, let me explain what this means. It basically means the following, that people are busy calling out in unity, all right? They're doing this right across the nation, are going to be calling for demons to be released upon our nation. Because the minute you go into ancestral worship, you are actually calling on the demonic powers to help you and assist you. Now, we need to do something very, very quickly around this. We are going to be praying as a nation, right across the nation. So I want you quickly to have a look at this video clip so that you can just see what is taking place.
Castle Milk Stout is partnering with renowned cultural activist and poet laureate Zolani Mkiva and the Congress of Traditional Leaders of South Africa, Controlesa, to officially launch Ancestors Day on the 8th of May. Controlesa is calling on South Africans to celebrate and observe African spirituality and its role in our lives through ceremonies and rituals that honor the ancestors. The inaugural ceremony will take place at the Matibela Royal Palace in Bushbuckridge in Mpumalanga next weekend. And
all right, I trust that you have a good understanding. We didn't play the whole clip. I just gave you a little piece of it so that you could get an idea. But let me show you what is going on. All right, Satan is trying to get a grip on our nation. We're going to reverse every single curse that gets released on every leader. Please, if you get this video, get it to your prayer networks, wherever.
So that Satanist is doing an observance to counteract what we want to do in terms of guidance and protection for our ancestors. So I'll ask everyone, please, on the 8th of May, from 7 a.m. in the morning to 12 midnight, every hour for 5 minutes on the hour, do an ancestral observance, asking for guidance and protection of all of our people and over all of our lands, and to rebuke any evils that they try to put upon us. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Sister Kemet. Sister Kemet, would you like to grace us?
Hey, sis.
Grace our screens. Oh, how you doing, sis?
I'm good.
Thank you as always. You're straight on it. Straight on it. Now, what do you suggest we should do? I know you said something in there, but
yeah, the observance is tomorrow, and they're trying to do it all around Africa. And so I'm trying to encourage people in the diaspora to join them. So from 7 a.m. tomorrow morning until midnight, on the top of the hour, every hour, for a minimum of 5 minutes, to meditate and ask for guidance and protection of our people, you know, at home and abroad. Because what many of us don't realize, many of our great leaders that's for us at this present time and waking up the people are being killed. They're being taken out one after the other, one after the other, after the other. So Africa is waking up, and they want a cause to help. There's some kind of spiritual warfare going on, just like the biological warfare. So we really have to wake up now and just do an observance and just get our powers from which we know and what we're used to. We need to get back in that order and start changing the whole thing around.
most definitely. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And your work continues no matter what, even though you can't rest, can you? as soon as you sit down and think, all right, that's over with, something else comes up.
Yeah, always something, you know, because having the 2 Rail platform and the Stop the Silence campaign, you know, videos come to us every minute, and you can't fight everything and take up everything, but some things, more often than, no, I can't say more often than not, but a lot of things jump at you, you know. But we have to learn from this as well, because when I say we, I mean my family and friends and close conscious community that I work with more often than not. When we hold observances, we don't always put it out there. So we have to learn from that as well. We can't always put everything out there, because these people will go in. I don't believe they can beat us spiritually, because that's our thing. We come from a place of love, peace, and harmony. But what they would do is get the police involved to block it and dismantle and that kind of stuff. So we have to be careful too.
Yeah, that is so true. Thank you. Thank you, sis.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And with this, we're going to go also to Sister Kesheni. Sister Kesheni, are you there?
Yes, give thanks. So give thanks to Sister Kemet that we're able to actually see that. I have to admit, it's been a very long time since seeing something so blatant, someone articulating like that. And that fear is so, you know, he's traumatized by the whole concept, you know, and we have to notice that, which also tells us that our ancestors are our power, you know, that they call them demon. Well, we know that that's a nonsense, but we have to clamp that style as well and block that. And we have to do the work around that, not just see it and notice it. Tomorrow, interestingly enough, is a very heavy duty ancestral day for women. It's the birthdays of the first empress of Ethiopia, Empress Felicite Oruz, who was wife to Dessalines. They conquered and beat the French. She lived to be over 100 years old. It's her birthday tomorrow, the 8th of May. Now, the first queen of Haiti, who was also in the revolution, who was born 30 years later on the same day, Queen Marie-Louise, It's also her birthday tomorrow. And she was queen to King Christophe, who was the next one in line after Dessalines, when they killed Dessalines. And the 8th of May is Iris's day, the day of majesty. That's what irises all over the world represent: majesty, honoring. They take it, people take it to cemeteries and gravesides. They are an honorable plant. So we have to take that cue from Sister Kemet to honor our ancestors. We have to follow that message. We have to hear it. She has said it loud and clear. It cannot be any louder. So we have to follow through. We have to take the message. There's a vibration that we are feeling. The consciousness has been approached. This is fear that we are seeing. And we've just had an elder telling us about our pain. And the key things in life that affect us all are 3 things: pain, fear, and fear of pain. And that's what we have to give back to where it came from. Return to sender. Let them take back their pain and fear, wallow up in their trauma, and we talk direct to our ancestors. Tell them what we want. Tell them that we love them, we honor them, and everything else. And we raise the vibration tomorrow. That's what it's about. We've got to work that consciousness. The elder said it. We've got to gather. He's talking about you gather from the 4 quarters, the 4 areas, and you have a conference. Well, we can have a conference spiritually tomorrow to confer in the power that we have and make that felt. And we've got a theme to let them know. Give them back the pedophilia. We don't deal with that, even if it's crawling all over Africa. Today we're joining the dots. It didn't happen, and it's heavy duty because the star Eris is ready to trigger. She's throwing bait out to wind us up. We cannot be, we have to go to cool. We have to work with the planet for us, not against us. It's a trigger of violence, and the man has triggered us word sound violence. So we have to do invocation, not prayer, invocation, okay? We have to prevent from being baited. We're counteracting the mental state, the thinking first. We're invoking the ancestors, call for their presence. Their presence, not just that we're thinking of them, but we bring them to earth. We make them manifest. That's what we have the power to do. And we acknowledge their celestial, sacred power. And every time we do that, we are erasing the demonic. Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. We don't deal with that. We've moved on. We're big people now. We've come home to I and I self, which is ancestral. It is not an oppression. We're not taking any oppression tomorrow from no one in our personal life. White people are moving off the pavement for us to walk because we're choosing majesty tomorrow, and we're emulating those queens that had that single revolution in 1805. Take ourselves seriously, and that's what the message is coming out today. Give thanks, Auntie Jean.
Ashe.
Sorry, last thing, I'm just going to put an ancestral invocation in the chat. If I appreciate people will have one, that's fine, do your own. This is also one that we can use, and I figure that the more word sound we put with ancestors and the words appreciation and love and harmony and all of those things, put it in there. And if we're all saying it, the vibration is stronger and stronger. Okay. So I'm just going to put this in the chat.
Give thanks. Last words from Sister Kemet. Thank you. Thank you, Sister Kesheni.
Ashil.
I just wanted to say to you, Auntie Jean, thank you for having me on the platform again.
No problem.
and to Dr. Lyndon that was on there, I found that he was right on point in so many different ways. And what we a lot of the things and what we're dealing with and what we're going through is not I don't want to say customary, but it's not, it's very unusual for Africans in Africa. I don't accept that. I don't see it. I don't know people. I go out in the villages. It's not customary like it has, like it is in the Caribbean and so forth, based on what we've gone through. We have post-traumatic slave syndrome. It is real. For example, and I was just going to try and make this very, very quick. I can't remember how the conversation came up, but it was speaking about women, girls, when they begin to menstruate, and how did you feel about menstruating and things like that. So most women would say, well, my mum just said, well, here's a pad or nothing. There was nothing around it that was, you know, a celebration or an embracing or keep away from boys now. That's all they knew. So one of my friends, when we're speaking about it, said that was her experience. And many women say that was their experience. Those that were born in America, born in Brazil, people in the diaspora. But in Africa, in Mama Africa, you find that it's something that's celebrated. Girls can't wait. It's a big deal. It's celebrated. It's a rites of passage, and you go through a whole different experience. But in the Caribbean, it's almost like an America. Anybody in the diaspora, like I said, it's kind of seen as something traumatic almost. So I was saying to my friend, well, why that is, because we don't realize so many things that's happened from slavery. It's so embedded in us. But you check it on the plantation, the mothers used to hide when the girls came on their period, because they know if they were told, master would straight away rape them, put them up for breeding. And that's been carried on in our culture from, well, it's not even our culture, but from the slave experience. Do you understand? So there's a lot of things which is not the norm in Mama Africa, which has come down from slavery, which we still have to try and reverse now, because it's not us. It really isn't us. And so we have to try and erase that and go back to that which we came from.
So true. Give thanks, sis. Give thanks. Give thanks.
Thank you, Auntie Jean.
Okay. And with that, now we're going to move very, very swiftly on to Pi Ratio, who's been very, very patient. Thank you, Pi Ratio, for your patience, and thank you for being there still. So Pi Ratio is going to be tailing off from what Dr. Lyndon has been speaking about, which is the God, mine's gone blank now. Addiction. So he's talking about the mass behind the addiction. So Pi Ratio, thank you so much. The screen is now yours, and welcome.
Thank you, sister, for having me on your platform. Firstly, I'd like to big up Sister Kemet for the video and for making me aware of the ancestral acknowledgement and worship. And I would definitely be passing that out, because there is so much power in numbers. I'm a maths guy, so I know about numbers when it comes on, you know, and I think this is the #1 thing in we've lost the essence, we've lost the understanding of numbers and how powerful it really is. My beloved friend, the Honourable Dr. Lyndon, he gave me a call the other day, and he said to me, oh, I'm doing this talk on addiction, you know, and it'd be amazing if you could come up with some numbers and maths behind it. And that threw me straight off of my comfort zone. You know, that wasn't what I was going to do, but it made sense. I thought it was really positive. So I've put together a presentation on the numbers behind addiction, just to kind of give us a bit of a flavor. I'm no expert on psychology and addiction and all that stuff. My forte is maths. For those who don't know me, my name's Pi Ratio, and I am a maths lecturer. I lecture in the maths and the sciences. I lecture in physics, chemistry, and biology, and mathematics, simply because they have so much equations between all three of them that it makes my day, in a nutshell. So that's what I do. I spend most of my working day working out formulas, playing with numbers, and sharing it with our Black students. That is my passion, and that's what I do. I have an amazing Empress who supports me every step of the way. A lot of the material that I create and put together is down to her. She's the hunter in this family. She goes out and she brings in the info. I look at it and I have to kind of make sense of it and create stuff around it. And without her, I wouldn't be doing possibly what I'm doing. So I have to big up the Empress, and I'm sure she's listening somewhere. Anyway, so without further ado, let's crack on. It's not going to be as long and as in depth as Dr. Lyndon, because he's the expert. I'm just doing the numbers behind addiction. So I do apologize if somebody was waiting for a long presentation, because it's not going to be that long. So let me share my screen. Okay, let me just record. Record on this computer. Record to. Right, let me get my screen up. Here we go. Okay. Right, can everybody see my screen? I hope you can.
Yes, you can. We can.
Yes. Yes.
Good. Cool. Alrighty. So, hold on a minute. Where are we? Okay. Okay. So let's move this one out of the way. Move that one out of the way. All right. Okay. The maths behind addiction. You know, addiction is such a complicated issue. It really is. I was listening to Dr. Lyndon, and he started off with a couple of stories. He's a very good storyteller. You know, I wish I'd had him telling me stories when I was little. You know, but yeah, he started off with a number of stories, and there was one point where he touched on some numbers, the math sides. I thought, well, that's all right. I can just pack up and go home because he's doing what I'm going to do. So, but then he tailed off and got back to what he knows best. So, the maths behind addiction. And once again, Dr. Lyndon, thank you very much for your presentation. It was absolutely amazing, and it was actually a nerve jerker. You know, when you listened to some of the points that you made, I made notes of it, and it's you know, wow, heavy stuff. Well, as I said, addiction is such a complicated issue, you know, that the question of what causes it and what defines it remains somewhat unsettling, you know, and this is after centuries of debates and the advancement in science and medicine. You know, the psychology behind addiction covers many bases, you know, so where do you really start? You know, whether it's a disease or a personal failing. Dr. Lyndon highlighted many of the different facets of addiction. You know, it's the effect of lifestyle and childhood, family history, socioeconomics, the demographics, and a dozen of the other factors that cannot be accounted for or measured, because Dr. Lyndon really just scraped the tip of the iceberg, really, because that this addiction thing, you know, you're possibly gonna have to do a part 2, because there's so much stuff that wasn't mentioned, but there was just not enough time. Now, the formulas developed through experiments into addiction can help us to change our approach to solving problems relating to the such like as behavior, drug and alcohol abuse, the mind state, etc. You know, in the addiction world, they call it mathematical psychology. And that is what they've used or have been using and are using to try and come up with different types of formulas for the different types of addiction. Now, throughout history, the height of human effectiveness has always been the ability to persuade others. Yes, that is that, you know, when you have someone who is an addict, for example, if you have an addict in your family, you know, can you hear me?
Yes.
Carry on and pi ratio.
Oh, sorry.
That's all
Okay.
right, go on.
We have addiction is something that strikes us very close. I have addiction. I had addiction in my family. My brother was a cocaine addict. My brother's no longer with us. He's passed away, and he's gone on to join the ancestors. But he was a cocaine addict, and addiction is just not only about drugs. It's not only about drink. There's so many addictions. Now, addiction is a chronic psychiatric disease where there is dysfunction in the brain's reward and memory system. I'll say that again. Addiction is a chronic psychiatric disease where there is dysfunction in the brain, reward, and memory system. The addiction forces the individual to pursue rewards via substance abuse. Okay? In 2019 and 1920, there were 10,621 hospital admissions with a primary diagnosis of drug-related mental health and behavioral disorders. Now, this was 6% more than 2018 and 2019, and 11% higher than 2014 and 2015. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? You know, I mean, this addiction thing is not a, it's not even tangible sometimes. You know, here's a slide of the different types of addiction that's out there. You know, substance, poverty is an addiction, believe it or not. You know, managing people's behavior, that is an addiction. You understand what I'm saying? You know, there are so much addictions out there, it is unbelievable. I had no idea before I embarked on doing a small presentation here, the amount of addiction that is out there. Is there any addiction that is good? Well, I can't say. I don't know if there is, because too much of anything is not necessarily good for you. Even if you're constantly studying, the brain can only take so much. I know some people who are addicted to studying, and when you speak to them, they seem a wave short of an ocean. So it's really important that there is a balance, because maths is all about balance, and that is where I'm coming from. Now let's look at smoking. Now in the UK, you have 14.1% of people aged 18 years and above who smoke cigarettes. And that equates to around 6.9 million people in the population. Now, this is not me just saying this. This is based off of estimates from the annual population survey.
Excuse me, you need to put the slide on the slideshow. We can't see the slides.
I'm so sorry. How do I do that now? Hold on a minute.
Put slideshows, press slideshow, and it'll come. You have to move the slides. You haven't.
All right, bear with me a sec. Hold on a minute. Is that any better? Am I doing all right?
Yeah,
you can see the smoking slide now.
Can you see this slide? Yeah.
Yeah, smoking. Yeah, we can see it. But
Thank you for that. If I switch the next one and you don't see it, let me know, because I can only see what I can see here.
Right.
So
sorry, Pi Ratio.
Yes.
To support you, you can actually click on the slideshow on your on the top of your tab.
Oh right, hold on a minute. Hold on.
See it?
Slideshow at the top of my tab.
You see it? Go
Slideshow. There you go. Wow.
That's the one. And then play. Well, it will play from start, but you can just click it to get to to smoke.
Oh, right. And then, and will it not move until I move it?
That's correct.
That's right.
Oh, thank you very much. Very kind of you.
That's all right.
So let me go to the next one. Let me go. Oh, brilliant. Oh, she's all right. Yeah, so as you can see, these numbers are not numbers that I'm plucking out of the air. These are actual numbers that come in. And all I do is work out the percentages and work out the equate it to the numbers that are the population and break down what exactly is the amount. Because sometimes when they tell you that 14.1%, well, what is that? What does that actually mean? Well, unless we know the amount of people in this population, MASH is not tangible unless you put things to it. So my job is to make it tangible so you can see and feel exactly what's going on. Okay, right. Gambling. Now, in a survey commissioned by Gambling Aware charity.
That's the next slide.
Can you see the next slide?
No, you ain't done it.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I did do it.
No, because it will take up the whole screen. We can see your side, what's coming up next. So if you go to the top, right at the top. Yeah. Have a look for slideshow.
Play.
All it is just play from start. That's all you do.
Play from start. That's what. Hold a minute.
On it.
Hold a second. Go on.
There you go.
Hold a minute.
Then
Let me go on that one.
Click again.
Right. Can you? Hold a minute. Are you seeing a move now?
Yeah, I can see the maths behind the addiction. So that's the very first slide. So click again.
Is that you can't see what? That's not the slide I've got up actually. The slide I've got up.
I can see the back bit as well. So you need to go in slideshow. So it takes over the whole screen.
Hold on a minute. Hold on a second. Well, hold on a minute. My thing here is taking over the whole screen. I'm lost there. Hold on a minute.
Okay. Can you see at the top?
What's that? At the top. Right.
That's
hold on a
it.
minute. And click that green. No, that's going to exit full screen. If I
No, down, further down. But you got the TVs.
All right, go on. What am I pressing?
Yeah, click on slideshow.
Play from current.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on a minute.
Yeah, play from
current slide.
Yeah.
All right, okay. Right, what does that give you?
No, it hasn't changed. It hasn't changed.
No, I'm
custom show. Go to custom show.
Let's have a look. Custom show. There you go. Custom slideshow. What does that do then? Doesn't do anything.
Nothing's changed.
No.
Okay, we'll just have to muddle on.
Is it sorry? Is it possible for him to just click on the actual slide that he's talking about on the left?
So when I click on this one, do you see that?
Yeah, it changes.
Yes.
And when I click on that one, do you see that?
Yes.
So I'll leave it like that then.
Yeah.
I'll just
Okay.
all right. Okay. So where am I? Yeah. Sorry about that. I'm not sure what's going on. Anyway, yeah. If we look at gambling now, in a survey commissioned by the Gambling Aware charity, YouGov estimated that up to 2.7% of adults in Great Britain, which is nearly 1.4 million people, were problem gamblers. How many gamblers do we have in our family? I've had one or two. Because this addiction thing, is not partial. And as one of the sisters mentioned in the talk, we don't talk about this enough. We mentioned addictive behavior. These are all addictive behavior. Pedophilia and the molestation and the gambling. They're all addictions, and we need to understand the numbers involved, because if we don't, it's as if we're just jumping on a moving vehicle and not really understanding the effects that it's having, especially amongst our people. Okay, so let's have a look. Drinking. Now, there are many of us out there who have a problem with drinking. 26.8% of adults, around 7.8 million people, drink excessively. How many of us know someone who is a so-called friend or a family member who drinks excessively? They may not deem it to be excessive, but I think Dr. Lyndon mentioned in his presentation, I think he touched on alcohol, and he mentioned the effect it can cause to your internals. Excuse me, you know, and this is serious business, and it's really, really important that with all this addiction that's floating around, because it's not actually floating around, it's been there a very, very long time. So somebody asked, how did it get into our community or our culture? You know what I mean? Well, you've got to go all the way back to slavery days and beyond to find out how all of this stuff seeped in and has become a disease. It's become infectious within what we do each day. You know, addiction is not only the points I'm covering. We've got drug addiction, class A addiction, which is 2.1% of adults, which is 16 to 59-year-olds, approximately 1.1 million, and 4.3% of adults between the age of 16 to 24, which is approximately 2 million people, are addicted to class A drugs. And that's who they've got on record. That's who they've got on record. What about those they don't have on record? A lot of the things that happened, Dr. Lyndon mentioned about somebody trying to abduct him. Is that brother on record? Or was he on record at the time? Probably not. There are many of these pedophiles who are not on record. I'm only looking at the figures that are available and working out what we do about it. Because with numbers, it gives you more of a visual, and then you're more able to understand how big the problem really is before you can tackle it. Because it's a bit like trying to, somebody tells you that their head's hurting them, and you're going to give them a headache tablet or something. And when you get to understand, they've got a rotted cut in their head. So the issue is not the fact, the issue is the fact that they've got a head wound. And you're giving them, or you're offering them a headache tablet because you don't fully understand what is going on. Well, that is what addiction is really all about. We do not really understand the depth and the harness that we are under until you know the maths. Because it's only once you know the maths behind this that you're going to be able to really solve the problem. We can give all the rhetoric we want. We can give all the rhetoric we want of this and that and that and this, but unless you have the numbers, you can forget it. You're not going to solve the problem. You're just going to be making noise. So, behavior addiction, that was what Dr. Lyndon was talking to for the majority of his talk. And behavior addiction is not pedophilia is one of them, but there are many. There's behavioral issues in relationships, and it's an addiction, something that happens regularly, whether it be abuse. Now, behavior addiction is a form of addiction that involves a compulsion to engage in an rewarding, non-substance related, sometimes called a natural reward. What does that mean? Sometimes the abuse that happens in relationships, the man gets a natural reward from the abuse that he dishes out to his partner. Now, regardless of any negative consequences, it's become a habit. And after a while, it becomes an addiction. It takes 21 days, for those who didn't know, to form a habit. 21 days. It takes 66 days for the habit to become autonomic. 66 days from my recollection. And it takes a year to make it permanent. You see, everything is about numbers. If somebody is abusing somebody else, it's important that one knows, well, how long has this been going on for? Because the numbers is the answer to the problem. All of these problems are algebraic expressions. Anybody heard of algebra? That's what it is. You can convert all of these issues into an algebraic expression. Anybody who knows about algebra, algebra is a combination of numbers and letters. And the letters are usually abbreviations of the actual issue. The numbers usually relates to the number of people involved, or for how long a particular thing has been going on for. And we use algebraic expressions to resolve problems, because that's what we use to solve real life problems. So a problem comes along, you word it out because you have a worded problem, and then you convert it into an algebraic problem, and that's how you come up with a resolution in maths. Okay, so for the, as I was mentioning, regardless of the negative consequences to the person's physical, mental, social, or financial well-being, they are not bothered, because they are now in a mode where they are getting a natural high from what they are doing, regardless of how negative it is. They don't see it that way no more. It's just become part of. And as you can see from the little graphic beside this, it shows you the cycle. You know, you have this is using substance abuse and substance and addictive behavior. You have guilt, emotional trigger, craving, and ritual, and then bam, it happens. And then you have a little bit of guilt, and then it starts all over again. And then it gets to a point where after a year, there is no guilt, because now it's blame. It's the blame game. It's got to a point where you have kind of removed even though you're the perpetrator, you're removing yourself from it, and it's somebody else's problem. They caused it. It wasn't you. You may be carrying it out, but somebody else caused it. All right. So what is the formula? Because we could sit here all day, and Dr. Lyndon, as I said, mentioned, he covered the major crux of this. And so I don't really want to come here and do a similar job, because I'm not an expert in addiction. As I say, maths is my thing. So what is the formula? Well, from a maths perspective, any addiction is treatable. And I think Dr. Lyndon alluded to that, and he mentioned that in his amazing presentation earlier. Any addiction is treatable. So let's be clear on that. Yeah. You know, being able to run through a list of questions in your head also helps as to how you got to where you got and all that sort of stuff. A psychologist is the best place to give you the thought list, the process that will help you unravel the matrix. Being able to understand why we have the problem is also part of the resolution and part of the formula, which I'll come to in a minute. You know, where the problem came from. A sister mentioned in the chat about where did this thing come from? Our culture is not known for this, but where did it come from in the beginning? Well, we could dig right back to find out where it come from. You know, that's not the issue. You know what I mean? The issue is now that it is a problem, we have to look at resolving it. But yes, going back and seeing where it comes from, we have to deal with that in some respects to make sure that things like this don't happen again, in the respects that another culture brings something and plants it into our culture, you know, because we are, as a people, very accommodating when when it comes on to other cultures. But that's another talk for another day. Applying the correct formula to resolve the problem. Now that is key, because with so much addiction out there, there has to be, it's not a one size fits all kind of thing. You know, if you're suffering from, if you have an addiction to medication, if you have addiction to sex, if you have addiction to drugs, if you have addiction to abuse, it's not the same thing that resolved the problem, but the mathematical unit behind these are all the same. So what is the formula? And what is it that is the formula? So let's look at this now. Probabilities. Probabilities is the unit that sits behind addiction. Probabilities. The perpetrator, whatever they're doing, whether they're taking the drugs, whether they're drinking too much, whether they're abusing people, whatever it is they're doing, they are applying probabilities without even knowing it. Now, probabilities is a unit that allows you to predict a certain outcome. Now, many events within addiction can't be predicted with total certainty. Now, the best we can say is how likely it is going to happen, using the idea of probability based on what has happened before and by whom. Now, probability is very subjective, but it's a tool that helps you make the right stroke best judgment call within a certain situation. That is what probability does. You apply probability when you are trying to resolve problems such as addiction. Because within addiction, depending on what the addiction is, you would convert that problem into a mathematical equation, which is part of the algebra family, probabilities. And then you would go ahead to solving the problem. In probabilities, before I get there, in probabilities, there is a formula. And the formula is P, and that stands for probabilities. And A is about the event. Okay, so P is the probability, A is the event, and the event is equal to the number of favorable outcomes. If you are trying to resolve a problem, what are the number of ways that it can go? Where can it go? And this is what probabilities does. It looks at the options that one has, and it looks at the best scenario, and it implements it. But we also have to bear in mind that addiction, the different types of addiction, are based not solely on one thing. There could be an external force. There could be another event that causes the addiction. So we have to look and see. I mentioned in a slide previously, if I can go back to it, there we go. Being able to understand why we have the problem, where the problem came from. So it's all about what one is doing, how they're doing it. You know, addiction doesn't necessarily come about because somebody just gives you a drink and you swig it and that's it. No, there are external forces involved, possibly whereby you're frequenting and who you're frequenting with, and all that kind of stuff. You know, but as I said, I'm not a psychologist. I'm just a maths guy. All right. You know, mathematics is the language of the universe. We have to remember this, regardless of whether you like it or not. Numbers are like words. Pluses and minuses are like full stops and commas, and equations are like sentences. What I'm trying to say here is that any problem that we have, mathematics is the answer. Because until you, any solution that you have to a problem, if you lay it out, math sits behind it. I'm just trying to think of, you know, if you have a, I know we're talking about addiction, but I'm trying to find a start. If you have a child, for example, who is constantly getting into trouble at school, I'm not saying that there's an addiction there, but there is a formula that you can apply. Because once you go and you get all the information, you can then lay it out and apply a mathematic or an algebraic equation to that problem, and it will give you an answer. And the best thing I can tell you is this. For example, my 2 children, they are now homeschooled, and they were doing pretty well at school. My daughter was doing pretty well at maths, and she had some homework. And the homework, we did the homework, and when it was sent back in, the teacher marked it wrong, and so when she said it was wrong, so we went and we looked at it again, and we couldn't work it out. So we said, when you go to school tomorrow, if you could ask the teacher, could you kindly break it down and show us how it was done, because me and my dad have been working on it and we just haven't been able to solve the problem. And the teacher, and this was a black teacher, said to my daughter, you must go and try again. Now, we didn't have to be working this out, because this was done in class. She just happened to bring it home because she wanted to understand how the numbers hung together. Now, when that came, so I went up to the school, and in going up to the school, what happened is that after speaking with the teacher, we found that there was just a question and answer process going on here. It's working from a worksheet. You've got the questions, you've got the answer, but there's no bit in the middle. And with all of these things, like addiction, there is that fuzzy bit in the middle, which is the mathematics. Once we were able to apply the mathematics, we realized the worksheet that he had was wrong. How many children got downgraded because they didn't have somebody who was able to break down the numbers? When you go to, there's certain court cases, they're won because they have a maths expert in the courtroom. Whether the person's an addict or not, you can get somebody defending them, they bring in a mathematician, and because there's nobody on the other side to argue the mathematical case, the case is thrown out. There was a lady who, I can't remember her name, but she was sent to prison for apparently abusing her child. Her child died. Her child actually died of, she had 2 children, they both died of cot death. And she was accused of having a hand in killing the child, because there's no way you have 2 children and what are the odds and all this kind of stuff. And they brought in a mathematician on the side of the prosecution, and he put a case forward that she had to be guilty because it was a 97% chance that she committed it because of what was it? The genes that they carried couldn't justify the 2 children having cot death, something on those lines. But and it was thrown out, and she was sent to jail. The long and the short of it, 4 years after, a mathematician came along and was able to prove that she didn't do it, because the blood type of these children makes them more susceptible to cot death, and that wasn't in the equation in the first case. She came out, she was released, but because of so much trauma and what was going on, you know, she ended up committing suicide. and I know that's not the topic, but the point I'm trying to make here is that all of these issues, these addictive behaviors and the substances and whatever falls under addiction, you know, it's really important that we understand the numbers, because if we don't delve in to solve the numbers, you're not going to solve these problems. We talk about, you know, all these child molesters and children going and what have you, being abducted and so forth. I've seen the news, I've heard it, I know what's happening, I know what's happening on the street, but that's the problem. Because there isn't a sort of a central repository of the actual numbers, people take it with a pinch of salt. Numbers makes you sit up straight. It says that mathematics is the language of the universe. Numbers are like words, pluses and minuses are like full stops, and commas and equations are like sentences. It's really, really important that all of us on this platform and beyond, we get a grasp and understanding of numbers. It makes things so much clearer. It makes you more knowledgeable about subjects that you wouldn't normally be knowledgeable about. For example, this addiction. You know, I didn't really, you know, I knew about addiction, but until you look at the numbers, what do I really know? All I know is whatever percentages they put on the television or you read in a magazine. But percentages can only be really equated if there is a base number. Because if you say 14% of are have an addiction, you know, but 14% of what? 14%, that may mean if you're only counting 10 people, 14% is nothing. But we are blinded by numbers, and the reason why we're blinded by numbers is because we're afraid of numbers. Because numbers was originally our tool. And once other cultures came in, they took this tool and they veneered it with, covered it with their stamp of identity. It's no different than, and I keep saying this, giving this little illustration, but it's no different than if Nike is your number one shoe, you love Nike, and you go into a Nike store to buy your latest shoe, and it's has a Iceland badge on it, and it's wrapped in an Iceland bag or whatever, or a plain bag. You probably wouldn't buy it. Why? Because you wouldn't recognize it. Well, that's what's happened to maths. Many of our children don't recognize the numbers. So when they go to school, they don't recognize it. Many of their parents don't recognize it, and they're embarrassed to admit it. And what they do is they pass on that trait unbeknown to their children. And once you ignore and remove yourself from numbers, you become lost. Because all of these issues that one is talking about, and yeah, they are very heart-wrenching and you feel passionate about it, what have you, all that happens is that generation comes, generation goes, and nothing gets solved. Until the masses of us understand numbers. Addiction will be here for the foreseeable future. I just want to thank you all for listening to me drivel on about mathematics. But you know, it's a passion that that sits within me, and it doesn't matter what one is a expert in per se. Whatever they're doing, they cannot tell me that maths doesn't sit behind what they're doing. If they tell me that, then they haven't dug deep enough into their preferred profession. Maths sits behind everything. And if we could just harness mathematics, it's not difficult to harness. As I said, it's 21 days for a habit. to farm. 21 days. 66 days for a habit to become automatic, so to speak. And a year to make it permanent. Now, supposing if you start studying maths, after 21 days, it becomes a habit because you've got other habits. So why not have a mathematical habit then? Because if maths is going to open many doors and make things clear, that Sister Kemet spoke about the ancestral acknowledgement, right? This is all about numbers. Listen very carefully. The more we have in the diaspora worshipping and calling on the ancestors with their brothers and sisters in the African continent. You know how powerful that is? Because it's all about numbers. Why do you think that white man is running scared? You could hear it in his voice because he knows numbers is power. He's running scared. Look at him. He's calling on, I don't know who he's calling on, to pray so that what we're doing doesn't manifest. Now, if we understood numbers, everybody, the sister wouldn't have to do this video. She wouldn't have to send out the call. She wouldn't have to do that because we would all be aware of the numbers. All she would have to do is make us aware that this is going on. And as we understand about numbers, we would jump on it because numbers is power. They know this. And so this is why every opportunity they get, they deny our students the access to proper mathematical tuition because they know the importance of numbers. If we're able to harness the units, the formulas, we're gone clear. We've gone clear because now you are able to create your own solutions. You don't have to wait on them to come up with a solution for you. You know, I just yeah, as I said, I don't want to go on. But what I would say to Auntie Jean that let me just stop this a second. Yeah, let me stop that. I presented Auntie Jean with a link, and I hope she remembers to put it in the chat, and it will give you access to a free e-course, and it's a 4 to 5 day e-course relating to mathematics. It's free, and all you have to do is go in there and click on the free course, and you will get a video a day, just giving you a little taster of mathematics, the importance it plays in our lives, just some of the simple things that you're unaware of. I remember eating when my mum was alive. My mum could cook, man, I'm telling you. She used to bake bun Easter time. Harlem something. She was where we live in Brixton, and she used to supply the whole of the area and all the shops there with bun because she used to make bun. That was her thing. Now, when our black queens, when they cook, they are using mathematics, but because it's instinctive and it's not noted, right? You can make a perfect dish every time because you are functioning off of memory. Remember, I said to you, 21 days for a habit. If you're constantly cooking, it becomes a habit. And so if you look at some of the skills you've learned with regard to cooking, that was passed down from generation to generation, and it wasn't necessarily noted. But look what they do, the white folk come and do. They come and note what we do instinctively, and then all of a sudden, they are the creators and making all the money off of it. It's all about numbers. So it's really, really important that as a people, we harness the power of numbers, and we strive to understand, and the link will take you on a journey. And I've kept it really simple and made it really flow. Because when I went to school, I was not the mathematician I am now. The people that were teaching me didn't teach it well. I know that now. I didn't know that then. I thought I was the problem. Most of the maths I learned was self-taught. And after I taught myself, I went and did my degree. And since doing my degree, I've gone on and lectured in universities. I now spend most of my time teaching our Black children. And I've lectured at some of the top universities here in the UK. And I know, and some of my colleagues at the time, yes, I was appalled listening to some of their jargon during the breaks, some of their comments on some of our students. They're asking the question, why are Black students here? How dare you? How dare you? And to get to university is not that easy. You have to achieve certain grades. But I want you to know that university is not the be all or end all. I wouldn't even encourage my children to go to university. I'm encouraging my children to be entrepreneurs. But to do that, the first thing I'm doing is giving them the understanding of mathematics. Because without that, nothing is going to change. Hotep.
Thank you, Hotep, to you too as well. Has anybody got any questions for Pi Ratio? Would you like to unmute yourself and ask away? Let me see. Yes, Marvina.
Just wanted to say thank you, sir. That was quite thought-provoking when it came to drugs and alcohol abuse in our community linked to mental health and really looking at the young people. But I wanted to kind of just touch base on something you highlighted around mental health and drug and alcohol abuse. Do you think our community actually realized that their mental health, sometimes the way it presents might actually come down to the way we might need something to pick us up, whether that is weed or drugs or whatever it is, or alcohol? Do you think we fully understand the link to some of our harmful behaviors linked to mental health at all? That's one question. It would be great for you to answer that, and then I'll get my follow-up question to that one.
Excellent question. And as I said, I'm not really a psychologist, but from a mathematical perspective, as a people, we have no idea. We have no idea, because number one, there are many of us on this platform today who are suffering from trauma. We don't even know it. And you see, when you're suffering from trauma, it can cause you to become addictive. You see, so it's about understanding. It's an excellent point. You know, Dr. Lyndon may be in a better position to answer that question more than I will. But what I can say is this: as individuals, we all need pick-me-ups. But the pick-me-up should be really, if you are, well, I can only give you what my view from a mathematical point. If you are associating with likes, that is what charges your batteries. There is no point if you are striving to achieve great things, or to become a millionaire, and you're hanging around with you know, people who are always in prison, for example. You're not going to get your strength or your energy from that. It doesn't come from that. You know, in maths, I always go back to maths, because you see, we are walking mathematicians and we don't know it. many of us are walking lopsided. Maths straightens you out because maths is about balance. And let's keep it simple. 2 + 2 is equal to 4. What that statement is telling you is that what is on one side is equal to what is on the other side. So when you have an equation like 3rmp is equal to 24z or whatever it is, all it's telling you is that one side is equal to the other side. So as for the pick-me-up, it's telling you that you need a level of balance because one side is currently more dominant than the other side. And that is where people find they begin to get involved in some form of drug abuse, alcohol abuse, or what have you, because there isn't a balance. For example, if you're in a relationship and it's not going too well, there's an imbalance. One may turn to something that they feel is going to prop them up. But that thing that props them up can be something that can become addictive. I don't know if that kind of answers your question.
No, that definitely does. Bear with me. I really appreciate it. And again, I am a nerd, so I did further maths in A levels, and that the maths always work out. But I think another thing I wanted to touch on was what you talked about, encouraging our kids to look at being their own boss and being their own entrepreneurs. And I think we also need to come out of the slave mentality where we're assuming that the education system, the university system is for us and would make us better at work. Because we know there's so many young people, there's so much, we're the most learned people on earth. I don't know about other people, we are multiple degrees with some of the people I know who can still struggle to be in spaces. But what we don't teach our children is life skills to be financially free, to be able to look for solution focused to problems that the society has. And I think with what you're offering, a great angle that I will be interested to pick your brain on is that financial freedom of knowing what needs are there for you to create solutions for. Because that's what I think children and young people need to understand. Cause and effect, every disaster has an opportunity in it. And if people know how to calculate it and see what's trending, you can create a solution to problems that even your counterparts do not know that is viable. But we normally want to copy and do what everybody else is doing. And we don't think that we are the solutions to the problem. So if you teach a child that, listen, yes, COVID is happening, but now what kind of business do you want to create a solution to a market that has a deficit? Parents don't talk to their children like that. Instead, we tell them we need to learn about a system that does not teach us about us, isn't ever going to be for us. So why do we expect to see the results differently? So I'll be interested in hearing, we do something in the Garvey Village the last Friday of every month.
Right.
And it's specifically for children and young people to come on board celebrating Black excellence. We're galvanizing the African youths. But I would love an angle potentially of you bringing the maths and the topics that are linked to giving young people and children the skills to problem solve.
Wow.
When it comes to looking at resources, looking at opportunities. I know they say there's no money, but there is money. So figuring it out and making sure they can do that. So I'll be interested in that.
My sister, thank you so much for your question. But you just made an excellent point yourself. You know, we always wait for the solution because we don't understand the maths. You understand, and we are just waiting to copy. Now, if we understand the math, you made a point. There is did you know that there is only 3% of real money in the system? 3% of that money in the system is real. The money that you have in your pocket, the notes, the coins, there's only 3% of it. Did you know that? Ah, right. 38% is the gold reserve. 38%. And 55% is credit. And that's what makes up the whole of the monetary system. So if we understand that, again, see, we're not even going to take this on board, because when you don't understand numbers, you just think, well, it don't affect me. Why should I've got money in my pocket, I'm all right. You see, that's the wrong thinking, but that's the thinking that is instilled in us. We need to be creating, instilling in our children, they need to be creating walk-away wealth. And you can only do that if you understand numbers. You don't want your child to be tied down to a 9-to-5 like you, or doing 10, 12 jobs like you. We need them to be entrepreneurs and to create things that allows them to walk away and still earn money while they've walked away, so that the next generation can come. This is how you create generational wealth. And I'm on a crusade, because I want the African continent, that it needs mathematics. There's no doubt about it. Industry, everything that they're doing in industry requires maths. The turbines and all the things, the power stations and all these kind of things. You understand what I'm saying? They require mathematicians involved. Why can't it be black mathematicians? Our children. Why can't it be them? Give them a sense of belonging. Understand? We look at industry and think that, well, you know, this belongs to something else. It's nothing to do with us, because we don't understand the numbers. If we understood the numbers, believe me when I tell you this, we would be pushing our children more into mathematics than all of these other subjects that serve no purpose.
It's that thing about assets and liability that we still don't have our heads wrapped around. And people don't understand the importance of investing in buying gold. It's something that, again, doesn't come into common sense, really. And I know in Nigeria, we say common sense isn't common, but it's really one of those slave mentality that we don't look at how we improve each other's services, but we're happy to see how this black pound, the African pound, don't even circulate even more than 6 hours in our community. And someone will say, yeah, you're young, why do you know this? Because I then consciously try and buy black. And if I have a problem buying in a black store or in an African store, I find ways to help them improve it. People don't have the patience to look at the mathematics and putting that in, but I'm going to keep quiet and let other people talk. But thank you for coming. And if you know some young people who know about the maths, please send them to the Garvey Village, and let's see how we can celebrate their great skills of entrepreneurship and stuff like that.
Before you bring in the next person, I just want to thank that sister again for her questions. One of the addictions that we suffer from as a people, yeah, and this is a big one, the addiction that we suffer from as black people, we don't trust our own. We trust the others, not our own. That's a massive addiction that we don't even understand. Do you understand? You take your child to certain schools, your children come home and they say, oh, the teacher don't like me. You're more likely to give a child a hard time than go and find out what's happening. Do you understand what I'm dealing with? Listen, in the lectures that I've done, yeah, I have white parents, and I don't advertise to white parents. I have white parents who come to me and tell me they can't thank me enough. You know, they tell me that I'm second to God. I don't take it on board. I'm just telling you what they tell me because of what I've done for their child. And when a black parent, not all of them, but there are many, when the hoops I have to go over, I used to have to go over, they wanted to know my inside leg measurement, my neck size, my shoe size. They wanted to know everything. And I would say to them, why have you brought your child to me? Now, this is an addiction. Why have you brought your child to me? Well, I brought your child to me because the child is not doing well at school. How long has your child been going to this school? About 5 years. And when you give the child an assessment, I don't even do assessments, so just a little test, impromptu test, you find that they have the ability 3 years below their age. Yes, and you don't once question the teacher who's been teaching your child for that period of time. But a black teacher You want to know everything about him or her. And I don't get it. I don't understand it. And that is the biggest problem. We don't trust ourselves. And that has been instilled by a next set of people. They have caused this. But again, these are all algebraic problems which can be resolved, you know, but this is a problem that many of us are not even aware of. Sorry. You're on mute, Auntie Jane.
This is playing about with this unmute. Anyway, thank you for that. Galactic Clyde, last question from Galactic Clyde.
Okay, greetings. Thank you very much, my brother, for the information, the importance.
Very welcome, sir. You're very welcome.
Yeah, I put something in the chat and I want to just read it out. Like for like lead us into dislikes, because we do not understand the things that we should like are the things that can lead us into the light. Now that's heavy in the sense that when I look at your shirt you're wearing, you got a number on your shirt, which is a very important number as you're talking about numbers, because it brings to mind the mathematical equation by our ancestors. Yes, that really shows us the importance of like for like, because the number 8 shows what? A reflection of itself. The number 8 shows as above, so below.
You got it in one, sir. You got it in one. Hold your thought for a point, because I'm Galactic, sir. Hold your point, but I just have to say, this is how powerful numbers are. If you noticed the other day when Prince Philip passed away, yeah, they put up the year 1921. Was it 19? No, it was 1921. What was it? Yeah, 1921 to 2021. Now, that was a Masonic message, mathematical algorithm sent out to the Masons.
Okay.
Now I say, unless you understand numbers, you ain't got a clue what's going on. You just think, yeah. You know, and they're sending message for our demise, and we are just whistling and dancing into this without any understanding whatsoever. And so the fact that you just mentioned that, my brother, I'm humbled by that. Continue, please.
Yes, and even the numbers you bring there, because 1921 we was in a pandemic.
There you go. There you
we're
go.
back in it again. But interesting, because the formula that our ancestors lead out for us is as above, so below, as within, so without, which shows you that everything is reflected in the sense. So I know a sister was asking, you're speaking about the abuse and the alcohol and the cigarette. And when we go back into our tradition, we did not abuse cigarette because we didn't have the so-called cigarette. We had tobacco, which was considered good for the brain because of the nicotine receptors in our brain. And still a lot of the elders use the tobacco for more spiritual purposes, not as a recreation, but for spiritual reason. Same thing with the alcohol, not the modern day alcohol, but strong herbs to help them to fixate the mind, the spirit, and the soul with celestial consciousness. And so in one sense, we're trying to grasp that. We're trying to understand that, not realizing that we're given fake substance and not the real substance where our ancestors used to use in connection to accessing the higher dimension to help them with the lower problems that they're having. And that's where the power of numbers comes in, to understand as above, so below, as within, so without. Everything is reflected.
Real talk, real talk. I love it. I love it.
Give thanks. Thank you so much. Thank you, Galactic Clyde. Thank you so much. As I say, Pi Ratio. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I share you. Very welcome. Very welcome indeed.
All right. Thank you for your presentation. Absolutely brilliant. Also, big thank you to Dr. Lyndon Waters for his also brilliant presentation, which spun off to make Pyratio's presentation, which is good, with it all linked. And big thank you also to our sister Kemet for bringing us the attention that we need to tomorrow on the hour, every hour, raise up our ancestors and thank them and to honor them as well. So if we do that every time on the hour, we may not forget 1 hour, but I hope other people are doing it on the hour. Our vibrations will be lifting it up, and we also be raising up, and also probably raising up the vibrations of our ancestors to help us more. So quickly moving on to what's on over the weekend. So we have our sister Kesheni. Would you like to quickly let us know what's happening on Sunday on the African Culture Market?
I'm just okay. Yes, give thanks, Auntie Jean. Oh, it's a great vibration weekend, boy, this weekend. So on Sunday we are with one of the ultimate elders in our global community. She's a professor, she's a historian, she's a writer, and she's holding a history of Haiti, and that is Ma Baina Bello. So she's joining us to talk about Empress Félicité and Queen Marie-Louise, and we're really talking about our ancient mothers, the power that on the African continent of that female, that woman energy that is proactive and that never goes away and manifests through us as women. And also it does happen with men, they come through men as well. So that's a majesty moment. And on that same platform, we have Mame Amagay, who is actually on this platform with us this evening. And she is an example of how that spirit manifests, because she has carried a message from the Queen Mother Yaa Santua, the warrior, the revolutionary, the one that stepped up for Ghana, and laid herself for that. And she is going to be present, and she's got some very special guests from Ghana who are going to join us on that session. And then there is the advisor, the priest to the very first king of the Ashanti 400 years ago, who also comes through and gives a message. So we've been talking about ancestors. Well, what happens if we are to hear their message and we're to carry that message and really pay attention to when they actually directly speak to us? That's what we're having on Sunday. Look forward to everyone being there. Feel the vibration, and it's all good. Give thanks. Asheo.
Asheo, give thanks. See you on Sunday. And also, Galactic Cloud, do you want to have a quick mention about what's happening tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock? The Garvey Village is doing a special.
Yes, Auntie Jean. Yes, tomorrow we have a Saturday special with Dr. Ribello from Bombay, India. And he's a medical or herbal doctor and a naturalist. And he'll be speaking to us about health as well. He'll be also running for election or standing against the Prime Minister of India as to be the incumbent Prime Minister. And so we'll be talking about also what's going on in India concerning COVID, the scam, and what the news media is telling us. And he will give us his side. He also have a remedy for some of the people who, or for people who have taken the job and may be looking for help, and what they can do to help to reverse their issues of the issues that they would have with the taking the job. So it'll be excited there tomorrow with Dr. Bibella. He loves to laugh, he loves to give jokes, and so we'll have a great time tomorrow with our brother, Elder Dr. Ribella.
Okay, thank you. And that is 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. The details are in the chat. The link is in the chat that you can register with. And also quickly, Arthur Tomlinson, about the pyramid on Mondays. Arthur?
Yes. Right, am I there? Yes.
Okay, yes.
Just a very, very quick one. I do believe that we have lost the ability of expression and expression of words from our native language, from Africa to English. We lost a hell of a lot of our ability to be able to understand what is actually happening around us when we are converting our own language and our own understanding, being as we are intuitive people, into the English language. We hear it every single day when you're talking to another person who speaks another language and they say something that isn't quite the way that we understand it, or we would say it in another way. That's how the confusion has been brought to us. Using the pyramid, which is what I'm teaching, is an access and a way of us to gain back the expression that we have lost, the understanding that we have lost the ability to be able to deliver confidently, clearly, and understandably when we're put under pressure. And that is basically it. Come and learn how to break those disabilities down by joining us on the pyramid and learning a new ability of how to be able to express your own individuality through the English language. So what we are doing is we are starting module 3 on Monday, module 2. And if there are any people that want to start module 1, please give me a buzz and we will sort something out with regards to getting module 1 starting up again. If not, that will be starting in a couple of weeks' time again, afresh. So again, if you want to learn to get this first session in on module 1, please just give us a buzz and let us know that that's what you want to do, and we'll sort something out. God bless you all. Bye for now.
Thank you, Arthur. Thank you. That's what's happening over the weekends. Saturday at 10 o'clock in the morning. Look forward to seeing you there with Professor Dr. Leo Rebello. And yes, he'll be telling us what's actually really going on in India. Sunday at 7 till 11, we have our sister Kesheni with the Auntie G's African Culture Market with Love Halo. And on Monday at 6:30 p.m. we have the start of the pyramid. So looking forward to all of that. Give thank you to everybody on Facebook. Say thank you and good night to you, and everybody who is listening on Black Culture Radio, which you're listening to the Auntie Jean Zone on Black Culture Radio, which is all the W's, blackcultureradio.com. Thank you all for joining us this evening, and looking forward for you to joining us tomorrow morning. So good night to everybody who's joined us this evening. Thank you very much. A big thank you again to Dr. Lyndon Waters, and a big thank you also to Pi Ratio. So thank you and good night, everyone. I hope I haven't left anybody out. Have I left anybody out?
Thank you and good night all. Thank you.
Okay.
Good night.
Night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Dr. Lyndon had his hand up for some reason. I don't know, he didn't get a chance to ask his question.
I was just about to just say something very simple. Paresh was talking about, the learning ability of children. It never really wavers, it's just because they're not being taught in their preference of learning. Yeah, 81.34% of the planet's population are all visuals. Visual doesn't like to just sit there and be preached to. Paresh engages the children in such a way that everything is a visual, using similes, analogies, and metaphors. It's a very simple thing. People like what I said because I used that formula. That's all I mean. I trust that helps some of us.
Thank you, Dr. Lynn.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
All right.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Good night, people.
Good night. Good night.
Night.
And good night. And say, that's it. Good night.